Chapter 1409. It was a woman with phoenix eyes. She was dressed simply and neatly. The woman with phoenix eyes was smiling brightly as she greeted the guests and ordered the servants. She was quite capable. She treated the servants with a cold expression, but when she turned to the guests, she smiled. The woman with phoenix eyes seemed to know this very well. She was like a fish in water in the tea house. Lin Feng saw this and understood. If the king of Hades said that there was a secret in the Yulong tea house, the woman with phoenix eyes would definitely know. As for the other servants and guests in the tea house, they might be well informed, but they might not be able to give him what he wanted. With that thought, Lin Feng made a decision. Swoosh! His eyes lit up and a faint aura instantly spread out. Spatial energy, mystery, sky vision. Previously, only his main body could use the mystery of the vast star eyes. Now, his clone could use it effortlessly. After his clone broke through, not only did his comprehension of the Tao of strength increase greatly, but his Tao of metal and Tao of space also increased by a whole level, even though they were far apart and there were many guests in between. However, how strong was Lin Feng now? Smack! He directly locked onto her, domineering and unreasonable. Instantly, the woman with phoenix eyes turned pale. She instinctively wanted to resist, but she immediately gave up. The woman with phoenix eyes knew how strong she was. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at Lin Feng with confusion and a faint light in her eyes. With light steps, she slowly walked over. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He did it on purpose. If he were to look for her, he would attract attention. It was more appropriate to lure her over. If Elian has offended you in any way, I hope you can forgive her. The woman with phoenix eyes bowed and smiled charmingly. As a high-ranking person in the tea house, the woman with phoenix eyes was naturally at ease. She had her own capabilities. Elian. Lin Feng softly muttered and remembered this name. I have some information to ask. I wonder if Miss Elian can help? Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He did not waste any time and went straight to the point. Since he had locked onto his target, there was no need to be coy. In his opinion, this Helene was no ordinary woman. Ilian smiled. Sir, you must be joking. Ilian is just a little girl. How could I be worthy? The king of hell asked me to come. Lin Feng's expression didn't change. Almost instantly, Ilian's expression changed. She narrowed her phoenix eyes and a strange light flashed through her beautiful eyes. Then, she smiled faintly. This little girl's eyes are blind. I didn't recognize the new Lord Northern Dragon Guard. Lin Feng moved but did not reply. However, at this moment, he was even more certain that this Helene had some skills. Sir, if you don't mind, why don't you enter the hall and chat with me while drinking tea? Ilian smiled charmingly. Lead the way, Lin Feng said without hesitation. Even though the Elaine in front of him was extremely seductive, he could tell that this was only a skin on the surface. It wasn't his true personality. Pa, pa, pa. 3 clanging sounds resounded. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. Just as he entered a unique and elegant room, the left, middle, and right mechanisms were activated at the same time. The entire room was completely sealed. Ilian, who was standing in front of him, instantly changed from seductive to serious. She gestured for him to take a seat. Sir, please take a seat. Just as expected, Lin Feng wasn't surprised. It was within his expectations. Sitting down slowly, Ilian poured a cup of tea with a smile. She gently swayed her hair and said faintly, Sir, what do you want to know? The exact location of the Purple Moon Clan. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he looked at Ilian. Seeing that her reaction didn't change at all, he already understood. She was 100% clear. 10,000 Wu coins, Ilian said faintly without changing her expression. She didn't say anything else. However, her meaning was clear. She was here to buy and sell information. In other words, she was a member of the intelligence organization. The simple answer made Lin Feng frown. 10,000 Wu coins wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a little either. However, he didn't seem to be able to take it out. Sir, don't tell me you don't even have 10,000 Wu coins? Ilian covered her mouth and chuckled. Indeed, I don't, Lin Feng said honestly. He hesitated for a while and said, "Can I exchange it with something?" "Of course." Ilian smiled faintly. "However, sir, you should know the rules. You have the right to decide whether to take it out or not. We also have the right to decide whether to accept it or not." Lin Feng nodded. In fact, he was quite rich. It was just that he didn't really need money before, so he didn't exchange it for Wu coins. Not to mention other things. Just the amount he earned after entering the Sorcerer Tribe's territory was enough to fill his bowl. Not to mention the Heaven Rank Orange level and Heaven Rank Red level natural treasures, which were much more valuable than 10,000 Wu coins. They were priceless in the Sorcerer Tribe's territory. He already had too many other treasures. When he was fighting for the Heavenly Treasure, Wing helped him obtain more than 100 treasures. Among them, there were natural treasures, blood essences of godly beasts, blood essences of ferocious beasts, Sorcerer Tribe's original souls, and so on. Many of them were very valuable. "Oh," Lin Feng hesitated slightly, then took out a treasure that was shining with golden light. It was an Earth Rank Gold special treasure. It was also obtained when he was fighting for the Heavenly Treasure. Firstly, he wasn't sure what to use this treasure for. Secondly, with his current strength, an Earth Rank treasure would be of little help to him. Thirdly, in terms of value, it might be more valuable than an Earth Rank Black level treasure. It was closer to 10,000 Wu coins. "Oh," Ilian's eyes brightened. She took the treasure and stretched out her delicate hand. A dazzling golden light suddenly appeared. Ilian curved the corners of her mouth as she looked at Lin Feng and said, "Not bad. It's worth 8,000 Wu coins." As expected, Lin Feng's eyes brightened slightly. As far as he knew, an ordinary Earth Rank Black level treasure was only worth between 1,000 and 5,000 Wu coins. It was rare for it to be worth more than 5,000 Wu coins. This Earth Rank Gold level treasure was worth 8,000 Wu coins. It was enough to prove how effective it was. However, it was still 2,000 Wu coins short of 10,000 Wu coins. The amount was not small. Take the remaining 2,000 Wu coins as a small gift from Ilian. Ilian blinked and said with a smile, "If in the future, no need." Lin Feng interrupted her without hesitation. A black light appeared in his hand. It was an Earth Rank Black level treasure. He put it on the table and looked at Ilian. Lin Feng said slowly, "An offensive Earth Rank Black level treasure. It should be worth more than 2,000 Wu coins." Ilian didn't feel unhappy when she was interrupted. She just smiled and brushed the Earth Rank Black level treasure with her delicate hand. "Of course." Ilian stood up happily and threw a flirtatious glance at Lin Feng. "Lord, please wait for a moment." Ilian snapped her fingers and a door of light appeared on the metal wall behind her. Ilian disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng sat down and wasn't worried. Since the Northern Hades King asked him to come here, there must be a reason for it. Moreover, even if Ilian was given 100 guts, she wouldn't dare to fool him. 2,000 Wu coins to earn a favor? Isn't that too easy? Lin Feng thought lightly. He knew Ilian's tricks. Money was easy to earn, but favors were hard to return. Just like Bei Long's Ho, he was already dead. Even if he wanted to return the favor, he didn't know how to do so. As for Ilian, he didn't want to have anything to do with someone like her who was dying. A deal was a deal. The price was stated clearly. It would save him trouble in the future. Just as he was thinking, suddenly, she came like the wind and left like a shadow. Helene soon appeared with a rolled-up parchment in her hand. "Lord, this is what you want." Ilian smiled faintly and waved her hand. The parchment instantly flew over. Lin Feng caught it and shook it. Everything on the parchment entered his eyes. Not only were there a series of numbers and coordinates written on it, there was also a detailed map. There were even annotations at the bottom. It was clearly different from the map on the top. "The following is a personal gift from Ilian, Lord." Ilian blinked. Lin Feng couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. This woman was indeed not an ordinary person. "I didn't promise you anything," Lin Feng said indifferently and kept the parchment. "Of course." Ilian smiled faintly. "It's just that Lord is in the light while we are in the dark. If there are things that Lord can't do, or if you have any special information that you want to know, Lord can come and find Ilian. I believe that we can work together happily." Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He stared at Ilian and smiled faintly. He didn't say anything and didn't need to say anything. It was just as Ilian said. In the future, he might still have a use for her. "Lord, this way, please." As if she saw through Lin Feng's intention, Ilian smiled and snapped her fingers. A door of light opened in an instant. Ilian made a pleased gesture. "Lord, this way, please. Ilian won't send you off. I hope that Lord has a safe journey." The last 4 words had a deeper meaning. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he left. Ilian was left behind. Her red phoenix eyes narrowed as a meaningful smile appeared on her face. He came the same way and returned the same way. Listening to the various news and gossip about Yulong Tea House, Lin Feng strode out with a calm expression as if nothing had happened. However, his heart was already in turmoil. He couldn't wait to go to the Purple Moon clan immediately. But he couldn't be anxious. Being anxious and impulsive would only make things worse. He couldn't let his guard down. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. The moment he stepped out of Yulong Tea House, he turned into a bolt of lightning and returned to Royal Lotus Garden at the fastest speed possible. That was his place. There were companions that he could completely trust. "I don't think there's much of a problem." Thousand Love Emperor nodded lightly, her beautiful eyes flashing. "I've checked the coordinates. It's located at the border of the wilderness. It's a very ancient teleportation array. It's very stable." Jin Ji's face was serious. "Linda, go. We'll go with you." Shiji Xin's eyes flashed. "No need." Lin Feng shook his head with a smile. He picked up the parchment and looked at it deeply. There was no longer any doubt in his heart. It seemed that the information that he spent 10,000 shaman coins to buy was indeed true. It was worth it. Lin Feng, Thousand Love Emperor, revealed a hint of worry. "Don't worry, I can handle it." Looking at the three's concerned expressions, Lin Feng smiled and nodded. His eyes were filled with confidence. There was definitely danger if he wanted to barge into a neutral clan. Moreover, the Purple Moon clan wasn't weak. However, he was no longer the ignorant person he used to be. The transformation of his doppelganger made him very confident. "Wait for me, Xiao." Lin Feng clenched his hands, his eyes sparkling. Chapter 1410. In the Wildlands. In a barren land, weeds grew everywhere. An ancient teleportation array slowly lit up with a layer of translucent luster, and a black silhouette slowly flashed out. "Lin Feng, it's here." Lin Feng looked around, his eyes clear. The surroundings were flat, and the lush green color looked very peaceful. He couldn't sense any signs of life, and even the spirit chi was barren. Mountains could be seen in the distance, majestic and empty. There was nothing special about it. Such scenery could be seen everywhere in the wildlands, and it was very ordinary. It was hard to imagine that the Purple Moon Clan's clan would be here. However, the coordinates of the teleportation portal couldn't be wrong. Stepping out, Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and his expression was calm. One couldn't judge a book by its cover, and one couldn't judge a book by its cover. What he saw was indeed ordinary, but it didn't mean that it was really ordinary. Many things couldn't be seen with the eyes. One had to distinguish with one's heart and senses. Swish! Opening the parchment, Lin Feng looked around again. "It's here." "Very sure." Lin Feng nodded. The map on the parchment was very clear. His aura spread out, and he could sense it clearly and freely. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He was in his own state. He had already changed into his main body. Perhaps in terms of strength, his clone was stronger, but his main body's senses were much better than his clone's. Moreover, compared to his clone, he preferred to use his main body more. After all, a clone was just a clone. Just like a puppet master, no matter how strong a puppet was, it didn't mean that he liked to be a puppet. Most importantly, his clone wasn't related to Xiao in any way. When he headed to the Purple Moon clan this time, he hoped to meet Xiao in his most primitive and most essential appearance, just like when he was in the Nation of Hunters. Xiao was his wife. "There are no signs of life within 100 miles, Lin Feng said softly. As expected, it looked ordinary, but it was not ordinary at all. It was undoubtedly strange that there was not even a single trace of life force within 100 miles of the wilderness. No matter what, there would always be some strange beasts or wood spirits. However, the mountains here were peaceful, and the water was pure. Even the weeds that covered the ground were nothing more than ordinary decorations. They were living beings, but not sentient beings. His gaze slowly fell. The map on the sheepskin was very clear. There was a red light spot with a flag drawn on it. That was where the Purple Moon Clan was located. Whoosh! Lin Feng didn't slow down for even a moment as he dashed out. Since he had come here, he would not hesitate or retreat. He had seen Yu Yin and Ziyao twice, and the strangeness of the two women was deeply engraved in his heart. His intuition told him that they must be hiding something, or that something had happened. Otherwise, why would they be like this? Instead of making pointless guesses, it was better to investigate. He had personally verified it. His heart was calm. Even though he was so close to the Purple Moon Clan and Ziyao, Lin Feng's heart was calm, and he felt that everything was so calm. Was it his confidence in his strength? Lin Feng himself didn't know. Lin Feng's expression didn't change as he traveled at a fast speed, and his heartbeat was calm. Even so, there was still a question in his heart. That day, according to the divination, Ziyao was in the sorcerer realm, but the Purple Moon Clan was at the border of the wilderness. With Bei Mingyang's divination ability, he might not be able to predict it, but the probability of a wrong divination is quite small, not to mention that even Bei Mingyang's divination is exactly the same. Lin Feng nodded seriously. That day, he had asked Bei Mingyang to divine the location of his wife, Ziyao. After that, he became the lord of the southern region and visited Bei Mingyang's great-grandfather, Bei Mingyang, who was known as divination, and the answer he received was exactly the same. Therefore, he had always been very determined and very clear that he wanted to enter the sorcerer realm because he knew that Ziyao was here. However, the Purple Moon Clan was not in the sorcerer realm. What was strange about this? He didn't know. Right now, he had no way of knowing. Whether it is true or not, we will know after entering the Purple Moon Clan. Lin Feng's gaze was deep. The Purple Moon Clan. It was a beautiful place, filled with the warmth of spring. It was spring all year round here, flowers bloomed, and the spiritual energy was dense. Unlike the barren land outside, the Purple Moon Clan's spiritual energy was dense and filled with all kinds of beautiful sceneries like a fairyland. The life force was rich, and all kinds of rare spirit beasts could be seen everywhere. There was only one clan in the Purple Moon Clan. All the members of the Purple Moon Clan were there. The men were as handsome as a painting, and the women were as beautiful as fairies. There was a clear crescent or full moon mark on their foreheads, and one could tell their strength just by looking at the depth. There was no ugly in the Purple Moon Clan because regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, no matter how ugly they were much more beautiful than the humans outside. What a beautiful bride. A talented man and a beautiful woman. What a match. Who said that? I heard that Yao Yao was unwilling to marry before. It can't be, right? It must be a rumor. The great elder's grandson, Zi Xuanyu, is young and promising and is known as the strongest of the younger generation. He even stepped into the Sage King realm not long ago and has a boundless future. Many women in the clan want to marry him, but can't. The surroundings were filled with cheers and laughter, and the atmosphere was filled with joy. Lanterns and colored banners could be seen everywhere. Large red lanterns were hung, and the word happiness was pasted on them. Usually, when the Purple Moon Clan held a wedding, they had never experienced such a grand occasion. But this time, the great elder personally organized it. His most beloved grandson, Zi Xuanyu, was marrying a beautiful bride. So how could it be ordinary? In the Purple Moon Clan, the great elder's position was second only to the patriarch. Who wouldn't give him some face? Come, this way, please. There's a seat over there. Men, help me greet brother Hu. Ha, little sister Yaoji, long time no see. You're still so beautiful. A man with long flowing hair was warmly receiving guests. His hair was pitch black, and there were no white hairs. His skin was smooth and moist, and there were no wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. It was difficult for anyone to guess his age. He was already close to 60 years old and was considered an old generation in the Purple Moon clan. The Great Elder, Zi Fengtian. The Purple Moon clan had looks that even the heavens would be jealous of and did not age easily. Even if they died of old age, they would still maintain their youthful face and skin that was comparable to a young girl's. Thus, although the Great Elder, Zi Fengtian, was already very old, he still looked no different from a young human. Only the light in his eyes was mature and charming. This experience was not something that a cultivator who was only a few decades old could possess. Under his personal reception, all the guests returned with honor and the atmosphere was harmonious. But at this moment, Master, a man in formal clothes appeared in front of Zi Fengtian in a flash and cupped his hand slightly. Zi Fengtian frowned slightly. He had just finished receiving a distinguished guest and looked over. He said in a low voice, "Today is my grandson's big day. If there's nothing important, you can take care of it yourselves. As the eldest senior brother, you can take responsibility." As the Great Elder, Zi Fengtian had to take care of the clan's affairs on a daily basis. "It's like this, Master. There's news that a human appeared outside Yuru's array," the man said truthfully. He was the Great Elder, Zi Fengtian's first disciple, Zi Su. A human. Zi Fengtian was slightly startled. He waved his hand and said, "You can take care of such small matters yourselves." "But Master," Zi Su wanted to say something, but Zi Fengtian had already answered impatiently. "All right, that's all. Can't you see that I'm busy?" As he spoke, he looked behind him. His expression instantly changed, and he smiled as he walked forward. Rare guest, rare guest. Hanruo, I didn't expect you to come too. It's been a few years since we last met." Instantly, Zi Su was left alone. He frowned slightly. He pondered for a moment before his figure flashed and left. Yueru Array. It was the array used to enter and exit the Purple Moon clan. It was situated in the middle of several large mountains, forming a natural valley. Previously, it could not be seen because it was covered by the mountains. In addition, the array's concealment ability was extremely strong. It was difficult to detect unless one was close enough. However, the array was an inanimate object. Lin Feng could clearly sense the power of the heavens and earth. "It's here." Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He stood on the mountain peak and looked down. A thick fog covered the area. The power of the heavens and earth surged, blurring the entire array. It would not be easy to enter. Hiss! The array continued to operate as if it was swallowing the surrounding spirit chi. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he looked down. At this moment, he finally understood why the surrounding area was so barren. Only the tenacious weeds could survive, exhausting the military. This array absorbs the surrounding energy and then converts it into pure spirit chi energy, converging it into the Purple Moon clan's territory. Lin Feng pondered. Although he was not a great array master like Shan, his understanding of arrays was much clearer than before. At least, he could understand them. Just this point alone was very useful. "I'm afraid this array will even absorb life energy," Lin Feng thought to himself. The book said that the Purple Moon clan can maintain their youth forever and will not age until death. I think that, other than their bloodline, this array should have a lot of credit in it. As expected, every neutral race has its own unique characteristics. With a thought in his mind, Lin Feng slowly floated in the air. Feeling the array up close, the more he looked at it, the more majestic, and imposing it seemed. This great array had clear veins. It was like a never-ending machine that was constantly working. Lin Feng pursed his lips, feeling a little troubled. After all, what was under his feet was not a small array, but rather a considerable one. Among all the arrays he had seen, it was enough to rank in the top 3. If he wanted to force his way in, difficult. But it seemed like this was the only way to enter the Purple Moon clan. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he sighed in his heart, feeling helpless. Although he did not want to owe Ilian a favor, at this point, He had no choice but to do so. His eyes sparkled, and the parchment in his hand appeared again. With a swish, he opened it. At the bottom, there were a few rows of clear and elegant handwriting. It was written by Lien. Chapter 14:11. So that's how it is. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He shook his right hand, and with a flash of light, he put away the parchment. He closed his eyes and recalled the key points of Lien's explanation, the secret of the moon formation. Like a timely rain, it solved all the questions in his mind, including the way to enter and exit the moon formation. He didn't have the ability to solve it. Lien didn't have the ability to do so either. But it wasn't impossible to enter and exit. After all, the Purple Moon Clan members needed to enter and exit. Some of the Purple Moon Clan's VIPs and guests entered through the moon formation. Only a few people knew about this, but if they knew, there would be a way. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. The 10,000 shaman coins were worth it. Lin Feng nodded. With Lien's explanation and his own strength, it wasn't difficult to enter the moon formation. However, it doesn't seem that easy. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold. Sensing the aura, he felt a few strong forces surging out from the moon formation. Needless to say, they were targeting him. He could guess it as well. After all, he was in their territory. To be precise, he was at their doorstep. If they didn't react at all, then the Purple Moon Clan didn't deserve their reputation. Pa! 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 3 auras appeared instantly. They pierced through the formation like clouds and floated in front of him in the blink of an eye. 2 men and 1 woman. The men were extremely handsome, and the woman was beautiful. With the full moon and crescent moon marks on their foreheads, it was obvious that they were from the Purple Moon Clan. Who are you? What are you doing in the Purple Moon Ridge? The blue-clothed man, Zihan, who stood in the middle, asked. His voice was calm and not overbearing. It was because Lin Feng's aura was too strong. Even though he was just a human, his Saint King strength was enough to make him popular anywhere. They were only Saint Kings. Looking at Lin Feng, the fear in the 3's eyes was obvious. I'm looking for someone. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he said calmly. To be honest, if it wasn't necessary, he wouldn't want to hurt their relationship. No matter what, the Purple Moon Clan was Ziyao's clan, so it was best to avoid unnecessary disputes. He was here to look for someone, not to cause trouble. He wasn't afraid of making a big fuss, but it wasn't necessarily a good thing for Ziyao. Looking for someone? Zihan frowned. Who are you looking for? Do you have any proof? Proof? Lin Feng seemed to understand. He vaguely remembered that the North Dragon Guard had mentioned to him that many neutral tribes needed to be introduced before they could enter. Clearly, these credentials were provided by the neutral tribes. Hidden clans were very cautious about many things. Pursing his lips, Lin Feng looked at the blue-clothed man and said, I'm looking for Ziyao. Ziyao. The 3 clansmen of the Purple Moon Clan were startled, and their expressions became strange. Yao Yao. The man in green on the far left looked at the woman in white. It should be her. The woman in white nodded, as if she understood. She looked at Lin Feng. So, you know Yao Yao? Did she invite you to attend the wedding? Attend the wedding? Lin Feng was a little startled. He didn't understand what the woman in white said. Ziyao invited him to attend the wedding? Whose wedding? He had never heard of it. The leader of the group, Zihan, saw the change in Lin Feng's expression and understood. He said slowly, it seems that this brother didn't come because of an invitation. Please go back. Today is Miss Ziyao's wedding day. Although the Great Elder is holding a feast for the entire clan, outsiders are not invited. I'm sorry. Then, he cupped his hands and was about to leave with his people. But, in an instant, just as he turned around, Zihan felt an icy cold aura slowly rising behind his back. The terrifying power seemed to bind everything around him. A chill ran down his spine, and his face turned pale. Including the man in green and the woman in white, they didn't dare to move. The terrifying, murderous aura shrouded them like a stormy sea. If they dared to take a step forward, they would die without a complete corpse. Repeat what you just said. It was a trembling voice of extreme anger. Lin Feng's eyes were bloodshot, and his veins were exposed. It was rare to see Lin Feng with such an expression. He was like a ferocious devil. His cold and terrifying gaze looked straight at Zihan and the other two. The surging flames could not be stopped, as if they wanted to burn everything to ashes. The power of a Saint King surged out. Lin Feng was about to go crazy. Today was Zi Yao's wedding day? What kind of joke was this? Zi Yao was his wife. Gritting his teeth, Lin Feng clenched his fists and trembled violently. He couldn't control his body, and his emotions were even more hysterical. It was as if he was being burned by fire and could explode at any moment. The slightest touch would probably cause a violent explosion. A terrifying aura that they had never felt before shrouded Zihan and the other two. At this moment, the three of them finally understood how terrifying and dangerous this human was. A second ago, he was still calm and seemed easy to talk to, but the next second, he became a devil, and an extremely bloodthirsty devil at that. Gulp. Zihan swallowed a mouthful of saliva, unable to make a sound. Although Lin Feng asked him to repeat what he said, he didn't have the guts to do so. If he said it again, would he still be alive? Senior, this has nothing to do with us, Zihan said with a trembling voice. He was very perceptive. A bit of strength was a bit of confidence. Right now, the three of them together were probably not enough to be pinched with one hand. How could they not compromise? Saving their lives was more important. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Zihan understood the situation well. Speak. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and shouted coldly, his eyes filled with a bloody light. Surging murderous intent, accompanied by the ferocious flames, swallowed and spat out a terrifying power. Lin Feng shouted angrily, "What is going on?" Zihan and the other two kept quiet out of fear, looking at each other, their faces pale. Even a blind man could see that Lin Feng was so close to Zi Yao. They had already felt that something was wrong, and now it was true. There was an 80 to 90% chance that this human and Zi Yao had a close relationship. Senior, we really don't know, Zihan said in a frightened voice, trying to clear his name. Yes, the man in green echoed. The weakest woman in white was so scared that she couldn't even say a word. She had never been forced like this before. Ha! In an instant, Zihan's eyes bulged and his body trembled. He was lifted up like a chick, and even his struggles were futile. With his strength, even if he gave it his all, he was not Lin Feng's opponent. Not to mention that he had long lost his will to fight, and his aura was completely suppressed. A mere martial saint was equivalent to an ant in front of Lin Feng, who was at the beginning of the Saint King realm. The difference in strength was too great. Tell me everything you know. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, his voice hoarse. He couldn't suppress his emotions anymore. Everything surged up like a tide, and all his questions exploded at this moment. Everything was clear. Zi Yao's going to get married. No wonder Yuan had such a strange expression when she saw him, and no wonder Zi Yao acted as if she didn't see him. He couldn't control the anger in his heart at this moment. Lin Feng's eyes were bloodshot, and he couldn't wait to vent his anger and kill the three of them. But logic told him that he couldn't do that. At least, he had to get to the bottom of things. Senior, this is all we know. The man in green was so anxious that he was about to cry. Seeing Zihan like this, how could he not know what the consequences would be? If he angered this fiend in front of him, Zihan wouldn't be the only one to die. Suddenly, as if he had found his savior, the man in green looked at the woman in white and said anxiously, "Yulu, don't you know Yao Yao? Quick, tell me." Lin Feng's gaze fell on the woman in white. Her face was pale, and the woman in white was silent. She couldn't say a word under the majestic, killing intent, and her face was full of fear. She had never experienced such a situation before. Although she was a saint, her aptitude was superior and didn't need much training. Breaking through to the saint realm was just a matter of time. Speak, I won't kill you. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and forced himself to remain calm. He could see the fear in the woman in white, and she couldn't move at all. The killing intent slowly condensed and disappeared. At this moment, Zihan and the other two heaved a sigh of relief. The woman in white, Yulu, blushed and panicked. It's like this, Senior. Big Sister Yao Yao just returned from training and was fancied by young Master Xuanyu. After that, Zi Xuanyu proposed marriage to grandfather and the first elder, but Big Sister Yao Yao rejected him several times and was in a deadlock for a few years. Then, Big Sister Yao Yao agreed, and then, Yula couldn't speak again, and her face was pale. However, the murderous aura that had just subsided surged out once again and enveloped her. And it was even scarier than the last time. Looking at the human youth in front of her, she felt as though she was looking at a devil. His blood-red eyes seemed to be able to swallow people. Yulu was scared out of her wits and felt as though her soul was about to scatter. She was the weakest and the most timid among the three, so how could she withstand it? The youth in green saw that something was wrong and said, "And today, they're going to get married, right here in the clan." With that, he pointed at Yula formation. In an instant, swoosh, a cold light flashed out like lightning. The majestic killing intent was originally overwhelming, but it disappeared in an instant as though it had never appeared. Even Zihan, who was grabbed by the throat like a little chick, regained his freedom. His face was still in shock, and the three of them were sweating profusely. They felt as though they had taken a trip to the gates of hell. It was too scary. It was as though they had experienced a catastrophe. "I thought we were dead for sure," the man in green said with a trembling voice. "Me too." Zihan looked bitter and shook his head. "This person is too strong. He's not inferior to the first elder." Fortunately, Brother Lin, you were quick-witted. Yulu was still in shock and muttered softly. Otherwise, the three of us would have been killed for no reason. Looking at Yulu formation, Yulu muttered in shock. "I wonder who he is. Are humans so powerful?" "Yes, there are those who are more powerful than him," Zihan mumbled, "but there are very few. He's simply a monster," the man in green agreed. Chapter 14:12. Complete Anger. At this moment, Lin Feng was already hysterical. He couldn't suppress his emotions at all and had no way to do so. How could he endure such a thing? It was like a bolt from the blue. Zi Yao must have her reasons. Lin Feng's gaze was cold. He knew very well in his heart. He didn't doubt Zi Yao's feelings for him. The reason why she left him that day was because of Yuan. Today, she married the great elder's grandson, Zi Xuanyu. She must have been forced to do so, and there must be a reason that he didn't know. But no matter what the matter was, he would not ignore it. Zi Yao's matters were his matters. Furthermore, which man could tolerate his wife being snatched away by someone else? Xiao. Lin Feng was like a bolt of lightning as he entered the moon formation. The formation was majestic, but it wasn't very powerful. It wasn't that the moon formation was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. In fact, the function of the moon formation belonged to the auxiliary type. Its main function was to absorb spirit energy and life energy. Everything else was secondary. Even so, it wasn't that easy to barge into the formation without knowing. But right now, he was very confident. The annotations left behind by Yin were enough for him to enter. Hua. The surroundings were illusory. This place was like a gigantic mirror house. There were mirrors everywhere, even the top and the bottom. The gigantic crescent moon was illusory in the entire mirror. It was constantly changing, and the illusion was confusing. If one wasn't careful, they would fall deep into it. But this level of illusion was child's play. Get lost. Lin Feng roared as his eyes widened in anger. The countless crescent moons in front of him transformed into ghostly illusions that confused his mind and made him even more frustrated. Clenching his fists, Lin Feng had no way to vent his anger. Pung! The illusion instantly shattered like smoke and clouds. To people with strong willpower, illusions were just fleeting clouds. Furthermore, Lin Feng's current strength and soul were too strong. Stepping into the Saint King rank meant that he had entered the true peak of the Douling world. How many Saint King rank illusions were there? The illusionary mirror shattered with a crack. They were on a completely different level. Lin Feng rushed straight in and didn't even slow down. His goal was clear. In the blink of an eye, a huge hexagonal mirror appeared in front of him. There was a direction sign on the top, pointing to the left. It was like a maze, but Lin Feng didn't move according to the directions. His eyes turned cold, and the rebirth flame appeared in his hand. It was mixed with rich star source energy, and in an instant, boom, Lin Feng broke through the six-sided mirror and rushed forward. Quick! It was extremely fast. This was the simplest and most direct method. It was also what Helene had written on the parchment. Entering and exiting normally was far more troublesome than this. But as long as one had the strength of a Saint King, breaking through the six-sided mirror was another shortcut. All obstacles and illusions were useless in the face of such an attack. Wait for me, Ziyao. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. With me here, no one can touch you. You're Lin Feng's wife, and always will be. With a deep obsession in his heart, Lin Feng clenched his teeth. A strong killing intent erupted uncontrollably. It was crazy to the extreme. Purple Moon Clan. What should we do? Eldest senior brother. Yes, eldest senior brother. What did Master say? A few handsome men and women gathered around a man in formal clothes. It was the eldest senior brother, Zi Ruo, who had reported to Great Elder Zi Fengtian. The moon formation was originally under the jurisdiction of the Great Elder, and Zi Ruo was in charge of it. However, Great Elder Zi Fengtian was busy now, and Zi Ruo was leading a group of junior brothers and sisters to brainstorm. Even a blind person could see that the human in the light screen didn't come with good intentions. The surging killing intent roared, and he would kill anyone who stood in his way. Master wants us to deal with it ourselves. Zi Ruo frowned as he looked at Lin Feng in the light screen, and he was really afraid. This human was stronger than him, otherwise he would have stopped him long ago. He wouldn't be in such a difficult situation now. What? It can't be. The junior brothers and sisters were in an uproar, and they were shocked, but they didn't know what to do. This matter was very difficult to deal with. Third junior brother, fourth junior brother, come with me. Zi Ruo sighed. We have to face what we have to face, and we can't escape from it. The rest of you, wait here for orders. If things become troublesome. Zi Ruo looked at a tall and cold lady and said, Second junior sister, go and inform Master immediately. Yes, senior brother. The cold lady cupped her hands and said. Zi Ruo's eyes flashed, and he waved his hand, and the three figures disappeared instantly. 5-star mirror. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. After breaking through six-sided mirrors, a rather special 5-star mirror appeared. It didn't have 5 corners, but it was like a pentagon, and it flashed with a 5-colored brilliance. It was very strange. There were no directional signs on the 5-star mirror, and there was no way out. This place was like a dead end. However, it was the essence of the formation. The 5-star mirror was a kind of formation core. It wasn't the true formation core, but an existence similar to a button shaft. Destroying it meant destroying the moon formation. Ilian's note stated that the moon formation has a total of 3 5-star mirrors. If one chooses to break through, all 3 5-star mirrors must be destroyed. Lin Feng's eyes shone with a bright light as his palms flickered with fiery light, exuding an extremely dense, devouring fire. The attack of the rebirth fire was just a prelude. Some peak saint-level powerhouses could break the 6-sided mirror directly, but this 5-sided mirror required one to have the strength of a Saint King. One had to have the existence of the constellation Tao. Break for me. Lin Feng's eyes were cold, and the devouring fire rose like a dragon. It was like a ferocious dragon, mixed with the flames of a phoenix, mixed with the rich constellation Tao, and merged with the star source energy. In an instant, it blasted towards the 5-star mirror, and the formation seemed to tremble violently. The 5-star mirror instantly shattered from the center and couldn't resist at all. Lin Feng's strength was too strong. An ordinary Saint King expert might need to spend some effort to break it, but to Lin Feng, it was effortless. But even though the 5-star mirror had shattered, Lin Feng didn't move forward. Because at this moment, behind the five-star mirror, there were three auras that blocked him. Two peak saint experts, and the leader was dressed in formal clothes, with bright eyes and a strong Saint King aura blocking his path. I'm the first disciple of the great elder, Zi Dan. These two are my junior brothers, Zi Fu and Zi Chun. Zi Dan cupped his hands and said. The two handsome young men behind him also cupped their hands slightly, and there was a hint of caution on their faces, but there was a clear arrogance in their bones. They were usually of noble status and were arrogant. Get out of my way. Lin Feng's eyes were like torches and cold. Hearing the words great elder, it was like a needle piercing his heart, and his killing intent inexplicably chilled. The one who forced Ziao to get married was most likely the so-called great elder of the Purple Moon clan. Love the house and its crow, and hate the house and its crow. Since these three Purple Moon clan experts were the great elder's disciples, they couldn't be good people who appeared here. However, he didn't want to hit a smiling person, and he didn't want to start a massacre. Zidan's expression changed slightly, and he suppressed his anger and said in a low voice, Brother, can we talk in private? I'll say it again. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and his killing intent rose. Get out of my way. The difference of one word was like heaven and earth. As the great elder's disciples, Zidan and the other two had always been awe-inspiring, and they had never been humiliated like this. Zidan's face was green and white, and it was extremely ugly. Behind him, Zichen couldn't help but explode. Do you know who we are? We are the great elder. Before he finished speaking, the flames had already risen. The boiling fire of devouring, accompanied by the overbearing fire of rebirth, reflected the instant heat of the space. Lin Feng's eyes burned as he roared, and the rich power of the blood phoenix whistled out from behind him, and his terrifying killing intent could no longer be suppressed. He didn't have much time to waste on these small fries, and Ziyao was waiting for him. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Feng roared, and the flames in his hands burned brightly, provoking fire. He gritted his teeth and roared. It was fine if he didn't attack, but once he did, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't show mercy. The astonishing flames, accompanied by the cry of the phoenix, bloomed with astonishing power and blasted toward Zidan and the other two who were blocking in front of him. Oh no! Zidan's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly tried to block. Zifu and Zichun were also shocked. Who would have thought that this human would be like a madman, attacking as he pleased, and not caring about where he was at all? The astonishing power of the flames and the strength of a Saint King wasn't something they could block. Perhaps Zidan's strength could barely resist, but Zifu and Zichun weren't on the same level as Lin Feng. They frantically dodged and blocked, and they were in an extremely sorry state. In an instant, a cold light appeared, and Zichun, who had just dodged the flames, widened his eyes in shock. His neck was grabbed by a huge force, and in an instant his neck was crushed. With a clear cracking sound, not only did it cause Ziruo and Zifu's hearts to tremble, it also caused the people from the Ziyu clan to be completely dumbfounded. It can't be. Of course, their shock had only just begun. After Zichun, Zifu was also killed in an instant, without any effort at all. The three of them were usually considered strong in the Purple Moon clan, and Zidan was even a Saint King. But in front of them, they were like mantises trying to stop a chariot, unable to compete with this young human. Saint King beginner, Zidan. He even had a heaven-rank red innate treasure to protect him. But in less than 7 seconds, his head was separated from his body, and he turned into ashes. Lin Feng was like an unparalleled demon god. The flames in his hand fell, and not even their bones remained. The three great masters of the Purple Moon clan were all beheaded. He used the cruelest truth to tell the people of the Purple Moon clan that he had already thrown caution to the wind to achieve his goal. He was capable of doing anything. Just for Ziyao. Chapter 14:13. It was extremely shocking. At this moment, The experts of the Purple Moon clan who were in the main hall were all stunned. The air seemed to have frozen. Although the outside was decorated with lanterns and colored banners and was filled with a joyous atmosphere, the main hall was filled with a terrifying aura of death. The Grand Elder and his disciples were petrified. They had never seen such a scene before. Their eldest senior brother, Zi Huan, was powerful. Their third senior brother and fourth senior brother were not weak shrimps. However, in front of this human, they were so fragile that they could not even withstand a single blow. Everything that had happened before them was still vivid in their eyes. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have dared to believe that the three great experts had been completely slaughtered in such a short period of time. The human expert did not have a shocking appearance, but his strength was as terrifying as a demon. His killing intent even spread through the light screen and spread throughout the main hall. The air seemed to have frozen over. No, impossible. Is this a joke? Eldest senior brother died just like that. It was hard to imagine that their eldest senior brother, Zi Huan, who had been talking to them just a moment ago, had been killed in the blink of an eye. His soul had dispersed, and there was not even a corpse left. This strange atmosphere enveloped the entire main hall. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Second senior sister. It was unknown who shouted, but the cold and elegant woman regained her senses. Her pale face regained some luster. Only now did she remember Zi Huan's words. If things got really troublesome, immediately go and inform Master. Those words had become Zi Ruo's final words. They had become Zi Ruo's last words. In an instant, the cold and elegant woman's body trembled slightly as if ice had melted. She staggered out of the main hall. Her face was filled with horror. She was extremely shocked. What she had seen earlier appeared in her mind. The shocking flames, the loud cry of the phoenix, everything. It was like a nightmare. If anyone blocked him, he would kill them. If Buddha blocked him, he would kill Buddha. To Lin Feng, all the clansmen of the Purple Moon clan seemed to have become his enemies. They were indeed all his enemies. Lin Feng's expression was cold. He had killed 3 martial saint experts in succession, but he was not moved at all. To him, time was everything. He would not tolerate Zi Yao being forced to marry someone else, no matter the reason. In the past, he could only watch as Zi Yao left. But today, he no longer had any reason or excuse to ask Zi Yao to leave. No matter who dared to touch Zi Yao, they had to pay a heavy price. Anger for beauty. Whoosh. Lin Feng dashed out again. In Yueru's formation, the 3 powerhouses of the Purple Moon clan who had died in vain had underestimated Lin Feng and overestimated themselves. How could they touch the dragon's reverse scale? They should have never blocked Lin Feng's path. Now, Lin Feng was like an Azura from hell. There was only one path left in front of him. Whoever dared to stand in his way would become his enemy. Kill without mercy. Pung, pung. Lin Feng was like a hot knife through butter. The 6-sided mirrors were shattered one after another, and then the second 5-star mirror was also shattered into pieces. The shattering of one mirror after another not only caused the entire moon formation to tremble, but also shocked the experts of the Purple Moon clan who were inspecting the formation outside. They couldn't advance, and they couldn't retreat either. Seeing Lin Feng shatter the second 5-star mirror, they knew very well what it meant. That devil was very close to them. Their faces were pale and powerless. When the experts of the Purple Moon clan thought of the bloody scene, they shuddered and found it difficult to move their legs. Perhaps they were very talented, but they who had always been neutral and not good at fighting had never experienced such a life and death calamity. They had never faced such a murderous god who had grown through bloody battles. Lin Feng had risen to where he was today, step by step amidst the slaughter. His battle strength was unfathomable. Second senior sister. I wonder how second senior sister is doing. At this moment, there was only one hope left in everyone's minds. It was their only hope. Second senior sister, Yuemin. However, their second senior sister, Yuemin, was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. At this crucial moment, she couldn't find the Grand Elder. Previously, The one who had been in contact with her master was Zi Ruo. This time, the great elder had arranged a banquet and invited everyone in the clan to attend the wedding. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. Many people were squeezed together, and there were people everywhere. Yumin looked around, but how could she find her master? Moreover, her heart was already in a mess. In the clan, she had never encountered such a thing or such a big trouble. Although she was the second senior sister, she was too inexperienced. That bloody scene kept appearing in her mind. She saw the terrifying appearance of the devil and the monstrous flames. Yumin's chest heaved up and down uncontrollably. She only felt that her eyes were in a mess. She looked around everywhere, but hit a wall. She felt dizzy and had nowhere to go. She was stunned. Bang! The third 5-star mirror finally shattered. Lin Feng's eyes were red as he stood there. There was no sign of life in his eyes, only terrifying anger. He had suppressed it for a long time and waited for a long time. At this moment, his heart was boiling. The moon formation under his feet shook violently. His body trembled uncontrollably. It was anger and hatred. It was unforgivable. Boom! The great formation shattered. It wasn't completely shattered, but one of the paths had collapsed. With Lin Feng's strength, he couldn't break the entire moon formation. However, breaking one of the paths wasn't a big problem. There was light in front of him. Before he stepped out of the formation, he could already feel the dense and oppressive spirit qi. It seeped out with a faint life force. Everything was exactly as he had expected. The Purple Moon Clan. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. At this moment, he didn't have that familiar feeling in his heart. He didn't have the closeness of returning to Zi Yao's hometown. Instead, he felt a kind of disgust and a deep depression in his heart. This place was like a poppy to him. Step, step. Lin Feng slowly stepped out of the great formation. A beautiful scene appeared in front of him. The fragrance was pleasant and the scenery was beautiful. However, in his eyes, it was gray and incomparably dark. A few Purple Moon Clan experts instantly appeared in front of him. They looked shocked and frightened, as if they wanted to stop him. However, bang! Monstrous flames instantly ignited in his hands. In an instant, the few Purple Moon Clan experts who tried to stop him were scared out of their wits. They fled faster than rabbits. In the face of the threat of death, they were terrified. Lin Feng had come. No one knew what he had brought with him. However, one thing was certain. The Purple Moon Clan was definitely not peaceful. This clan wasn't considered big, but tens of thousands of people lived there all year round. Of course, there were also many members of the Purple Moon Clan who married into other clans. After all, the women of the Purple Moon Clan were famous for their beauty and good aptitude. Countless experts from other clans favored them. The Grand Elder and his disciples who were guarding the moon formation had long hidden far away. They weren't stupid. Even their Grand Senior Brother couldn't withstand 3 moves from him, let alone them. He could casually raise his hand, and they would probably die. Blocking and delaying him was the courage of an ignorant man. Every injustice had its perpetrator, and every debt had its debtor. Since this demon-like human's target wasn't them, why would they seek their own deaths? Anyway, everyone was scared together, and they didn't have any self-respect or face. At this moment, everyone was cursing their second senior sister from head to toe, but there wasn't even a shadow of her after such a long time. How could they have known that Yumin was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan? However, who would care about her? She finally found him. Seeing the Grand Elder who was beaming from ear to ear, Yumin felt as if she had been enlightened. She was extremely clear-headed, and she almost cried. Normally, she would see her master almost every day, but she had never needed her master as urgently as she did now. Master! Yumin hurried over. At this moment, the Grand Elder, Zi Fengtian, was chatting happily with the clan leader, Zi Yuan. Yumin's body trembled. She was a little stunned and didn't know what to do. With her status, how could she disturb her master at this moment? However, the situation was critical, and she couldn't not disturb her master. Yumin was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on her forehead. She bit her cherry lips, not knowing what to do. She could only kneel on one knee and cup her hands. The Grand Elder noticed Yu Min's strange behavior and frowned slightly. He was chatting happily with the clan leader just now, but when he saw his disciple acting like this, he immediately felt unhappy. However, he also knew that something must have happened. Otherwise, the person who came to report to him wouldn't be Yu Min, and not his first disciple, Zihuan. "Excuse me, clan leader," the Grand Elder said apologetically. "It's fine. We'll talk about it later." The clan leader, Ziyuan, smiled and nodded. Just as he was about to leave, his expression suddenly changed. Ziyuan seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky with bright eyes. "What's the matter?" the Grand Elder said unhappily. "Master." Yumin raised her head and trembled slightly. Tears immediately flowed down her face. She was about to speak, but she suddenly stopped. Boom! The sky seemed to explode. A fiery red cloud suddenly rose. The light of the flame carried a huge blood-red phoenix and appeared in the sky. It seemed to have dyed the entire sky red. Yumin looked at the sky with astonishment. Her body trembled nonstop. She was already speechless. In fact, there was no need for her to say anything. The Grand Elder, Zi Fengtian, and the clan leader, Zi Yuan, had serious expressions as they raised their heads. At this moment, all the guests and experts of the Purple Moon clan stopped talking. Everyone's gaze was shocked by the huge blood-red phoenix in the sky and the terrifying aura of the expert. One person. There was only one person. He floated high in the sky like an emperor, standing upright and unapproachable. His aura was domineering, and he looked down on everyone. Lin Feng. Since he had come, he had to be clean and neat. Seeing the joyous atmosphere and hearing the laughter, Lin Feng's heart was extremely painful. His tightly clenched fists trembled uncontrollably. He didn't want to waste a single second. Instead of wasting time and effort to search for them one by one, it was better to get straight to the point and be straightforward. Anyway, he didn't come with good intentions. "Ziyao!" Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he shouted arrogantly. His shocking aura instantly exploded. The monstrous flames accompanied by his deep shout shocked the entire Purple Moon clan. At this moment, Lin Feng's aura reached its peak. Chapter 1414. Everyone from the Purple Moon clan was completely stunned. Everyone's eyes were focused on the bride and groom. The Great Elder's grandson, Zi Xuanyu, had a green and white complexion. He was like an enraged rooster, extremely furious. On his big day, in the midst of the clan celebration, who would have thought that someone would come to cause trouble and even call his wife by her name? To a man, this was a great humiliation. Who could tolerate it? What could not? Boom! Zi Xuanyu stomped on the ground and flew straight into the sky. However, his actions were all in Lin Feng's line of sight. The moment he caught a glimpse of the bright red robe with the word "double happiness," Lin Feng felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Bang! Pang Rant's flames instantly rose, and Lin Feng's aura rose to the extreme in the blink of an eye. Fire of devouring, fire of rebirth. There was no preparation at all, nor was there any power buffer. In almost an instant, the two balls of flames condensed together. Under the combination of the extreme rotational force and centrifugal force, the might of the flames merged and exploded at the fastest speed. Its target was the reckless second generation, Zi Xuanyu, who dared to defy the heavens. He was at the early stage of the Saint King realm and was the strongest person in the younger generation of the Purple Moon clan, the disciple of the patriarch, Zi Yuan. With all kinds of honors, Zi Xuanyu could be said to be a dragon among men. If Lin Feng was the wild grass in the mountains, then he was the most precious and rare flower. He received the best treatment since young and had the best cultivation environment, just like a prince. But right now, the prince's halo collapsed in an instant. The difference between the strong and the weak was obvious. Boom! The power of one attack was already terrifying to the extreme. Lin Feng's strength exploded in an instant. Facing Zi Xuanyu, no, To be precise, facing the bright red, double happiness word, he seemed to have gone crazy. The star source power and the constellations Tao gathered together along with the flames. How could Zi Xuanyu contend against such a top-notch power? He had never seen such a terrifying attack before. His face was aghast and pale. He only realized how terrifying this human was when facing him. He was far from being a match for him. He wanted to dodge, but he realized that the surrounding space seemed to have been locked. At this moment, Zi Xuanyu felt like he was floating in the sea. Loneliness, helplessness, despair. A terrifying, killing intent enveloped him, making him feel as if he had fallen into hell. How could the word miserable describe it? Xuanyu. Zi Fengtian and Zi Yuan jumped up from the ground, their eyes shining brightly. One was his grandson, and the other was his disciple. In addition to their own status, how could they just stand by and watch Zi Xuanyu get attacked? Instantly, Peng. Zi Fengtian and Zi Yuan were both powerful Saint Kings, so they were considered top-notch masters no matter where they went. When the two of them joined forces, they were even more powerful. However, Lin Feng's strength was too strong. The strength of Lin Feng's body was originally comparable to a high-level Saint King Realm Master, and now that his physique had been strengthened further on the path to the heavens, his current strength was not inferior to Zi Fengtian and Zi Yuan's. His aura had the absolute upper hand. Boom! There was a violent explosion. Although the terrifying flame power was blocked, it also announced Lin Feng's strength. It was shocking and terrifying. Peng. The air fluctuated and Zi Xuanyu retreated in a sorry state. Although he was not injured, it was obvious who was stronger. He, who had a dazzling halo and was like a proud son of the heavens, was like a drowning dog in front of Lin Feng, unable to withstand a single blow. Only when Great Elder Zi Fengtian and Patriarch Zi Yuan joined forces did they barely manage to be on par with Lin Feng. Bright light shot out, and the fluctuations of astral source power were extremely strong. A crazy aura erupted in an instant. The battle finally began with Zi Xuanyu. Boom! Boom! Lin Feng shot out like an arrow. Facing the two powerful warriors of the Purple Moon clan, who were not good at close combat, he launched a crazy attack. He knew very well that kind people would be bullied and kind horses would be ridden. If he wanted to have the right to speak, if he wanted to dominate this place, then he had to win first. And I have to win. Lin Feng's gaze was cold and dazzling. Although it was 1 against 2, he was not afraid at all. His aura was even stronger than one of them. The battle began with a loud bang. A wedding banquet had inexplicably turned into a battlefield. All the powerhouses of the Purple Moon clan present raised their heads and looked at the sky, their hearts trembling. The battle was extremely intense and was like fire and water. Including the powerhouses of the Purple Moon clan who did not attend the wedding banquet, they also informed each other. The members of the Purple Moon clan rushed over one after another not only to join in the fun, but also to witness this battle with their own eyes. It was extremely rare. One had to know that this human was not only challenging the Purple Moon clan, but also the entire Heavenly Spirit Realm. Although Heavenly Spirit Realm was a loose organization of the Alliance, it did not mean that it did not have rules and regulations. The most important one was that the 8,000 neutral races were completely protected. No matter which side dared to invade the 8,000 neutral races, they were the enemies of Heavenly Spirit Realm. Yuan, why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and go. A ponytailed girl, Moon Spirit, shouted. Go where? Yuan was a little dazed as she stared blankly at the door. At this moment, bang, 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 3 silhouettes attacked from 3 different directions. 2 men and 1 woman. They were all elders of the Purple Moon clan. Seeing that the Great Elder was injured, the 3 of them did not care about morality. If this continued, it would be a disaster for the Purple Moon clan. The human before them was unbelievably powerful. Bottomless. Indeed, Lin Feng was far from using his full strength. Not to mention that he had not used his doppelganger, he had not even used his vermilion bird attack. Just by relying on his powerful body and terrifying flames, he was able to steadily gain the upper hand in battle. The neutral clans were too pampered. Their battle strength was far weaker than their actual strength. 5 against 1. More accurately, it was 4 against 1. Great Elder Zifeng Tian had retreated due to his injuries. The situation was even worse now that it was 4 against 1. Lin Feng had the upper hand and attacked Patriarch Zi Yuan. The latter was in a difficult position and was being suppressed. Right now, his heart was palpitating with fear, but he could neither retreat nor advance. As the Patriarch, he would lose face if he retreated. How would he have the right to lead the Purple Moon Clan in the future? How would he have any authority? However, what could he do if he did not retreat? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The figures of the Purple Moon Clan's experts all leaped up. The Saint Kings were all fighting with their lives on the line. Naturally, they would not allow Lin Feng to do as he pleased. The great elder, Zifeng Tian, was injured, and the clan leader, Zi Yuan, was in grave danger. If they did not make a move now, they would have been completely slaughtered before the heavenly spirit could rescue them. Their opponent was only one person. Madness. Dozens against one. How shocking was the situation? This was definitely the most shocking scene in the history of the Purple Moon Clan. No one would have expected the situation to become so serious. A mere human had turned the entire Purple Moon Clan upside down, causing them to lose their peace. It could be said that they had lost all face. "Look, Yuan." Yuling's eyes widened. She covered her mouth and exclaimed, "Oh my God!" Above, the battle was intense. Surrounded by enemies, Lin Feng was not at a disadvantage at all. He fought the entire Purple Moon Clan by himself. He was like a god of war. Yu Yin's face was as calm as a lake. Her expression was lonely. Although she came out, it was because she could not bear to follow Yuling. She did not really want to come out. She raised her head stiffly and looked at the sky. She watched the intense battle as if it was nothing. It was as if she was watching a show. His gloomy eyes were filled with endless sorrow, but he couldn't speak of it. However, looking at the familiar black figure, Yu Yin's eyes lit up. Her pupils dilated as she opened her mouth in shock. "No, it can't be." Yuan shook her head and rubbed her eyes. Her mouth was half open as she stood there in a daze. What did she see? Lin Feng. Chapter 14-15. Unbelievable. Yuan trembled as she watched the battle in the sky. Did she see wrongly? This human in black was Lin Feng, the ordinary human who married her sister Zi Yao in the kingdom of Maru, the human who had not even reached the Star Sea level. How did he become so strong, powerful to such an extent? Yu Yin's heart raced as she swallowed her saliva. She was still in a daze. When she saw Lin Feng in Yin Imperial City, she was already in a daze. In fact, she already knew where Lin Feng's upper limit was back in the kingdom of Maru. With Lin Feng's human body and potential, the Star Sea level was his limit. The chances of him reaching the Star Lord level were less than 1 in 10,000. However, humans who could enter Yin Imperial City were at least at the Star Domain level. She was already very surprised then. However, it was far from being as shocked as it was now. It was no longer shock, but rather fear and shock. Sage King level. Moreover, Lin Feng was not only at the Sage King level. His battle prowess was terrifying. Right now, he was fighting against all the Saint Kings of the Purple Moon Clan all by himself. Not only was he not at a disadvantage, but he was also getting stronger and stronger. The Purple Moon Clan's Saint Kings were heavily injured and fell off their horses, their numbers dwindling. However, the more Lin Feng fought, the more courageous he became. He was invincible, too powerful. Beside her, Yuling's eyes were filled with shock. She could not hide her admiration. The women of the Purple Moon Clan admired the strong the most. They were the strongest of the strong. It was not just Yuling. Many of the women of the Purple Moon Clan who were watching were captivated by Lin Feng's strength. Why would they care that the other party was their clan leader? Pung, pung, pung. A series of attacks were like a phoenix spreading its wings. It was majestic. Lin Feng's strength was on full display at this moment. One by one, the Purple Moon Clan cultivators were struck down. In fact, Lin Feng was already merciful. He was heavily injured but did not kill them. Even so, to the Purple Moon Clan, the loss was extremely heavy. Including their clan leader, Zi Yuan, there were only a dozen people left. It was a one-sided battle. What's going on? Yuan finally reacted and asked in shock. Moon Spirit turned around and said softly, I don't know either, Yuan. I only heard him call out for Zi Yao and Zi Xuanyu rush forward. In the end, things got out of hand, and it turned into a chaotic battle. Moon Spirit glanced over and pursed her lips. I was still wondering how powerful that Zi Xuanyu was. What strongest of the younger generation? He was beaten so badly before he even started. Zi Yao. Lin Feng had come for Zi Yao. I should have known. Yin muttered. She bit her cherry lips tightly. At this moment, the guilt in her heart grew even more, and two streams of tears fell uncontrollably. She was wrong. If she had told Lin Feng immediately, things would not have turned out this way. If she had believed in Lin Feng, it might not have ended in such a tragedy. Lin Feng's strength was actually this strong, far beyond her expectations. Perhaps, if she had told Zi Yao earlier, the three of them could have met and talked openly, and everything would have been different. But there were no ifs. Things had already happened. Wait, since Lin Feng came for Zi Yao, why did they fight here? Yuan suddenly reacted and was puzzled. She frowned slightly and followed Moon Spirit's gaze. Yuan instantly saw the Purple Moon Clan's strongest of the younger generation, Zi Xuanyu. That ashen face and shocked expression were so ironic at this moment. The word happiness on his body was even more like a naked mockery, and the bride beside him. Zi Yao. It's Zi Yao. Yu Yin's eyes widened, and she immediately reacted. Zi Xuanyu was also marrying Zi Yao, but they had the same name, but different people. In the Purple Moon Clan, because there were very few surnames, there were quite a lot of people with the same name. The number of women named Zi Yao could not be counted with one hand. It was quite a coincidence that the woman Zi Xuanyu was marrying had the same name as Zi Yao. So that was it. Yuan completely understood at this moment. In just a short moment, the dust of the battle in the sky was about to settle. Out of the dozen people from before, only 8 people were left stubbornly resisting. Anyone with eyes could see that their defeat was only a matter of time. Whether they lived or died, it would depend on whether this demon-like human would show mercy. Including the patriarch, Zi Yuan, they were all in imminent danger. If they took a step back, it would be a bottomless abyss, and they would fall to their deaths. The Purple Moon Clan was too lacking in battle experience. Not good. Yu Yin's expression changed. She immediately stepped on the ground and flew into the sky. Yu Yin shouted with all her might, "It's a misunderstanding. Everyone stop." His clear and anxious voice reverberated throughout the battlefield. Everyone's eyes were focused. During the battle, Lin Feng naturally paid attention to his surroundings and listened attentively. The moment Yu Yin jumped up, he saw her. After she shouted that sentence, Lin Feng's expression changed and his movements slowed down. Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? Bang! The flames blazed. Lin Feng stood upright and frowned slightly as he landed. With his relationship with Yu Yin, if Yu Yin asked him to stop, he would naturally do so. In any case, these experts of the Purple Moon Clan were already at their last breath. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to make a mortal enemy, these so-called experts would have been killed long ago. Before the situation was completely clear, he didn't want to kill them all. No matter what, whether good or bad, they were still Zi Yao's clansmen. Previously, time was tight, so he had no choice but to be ruthless and kill one to warn the others. But now, without affecting the overall situation, it was better to leave one alive. After all, there weren't many Saint King-level experts in the Purple Moon Clan, and they weren't strong. He believed that with Zi Yao's kindness, she wouldn't want him to kill thousands. Leave a way out for everything. With Lin Feng stopping, the experts of the Purple Moon Clan didn't dare to continue fighting. They were eager, especially the patriarch, Zi Yuan. His back was already drenched in sweat, and he felt as if he had taken a trip to the gates of hell. He had heard Yu Yin shout, and all the other clansmen had heard it, but no one knew what this misunderstanding meant. But one thing was certain. Yu Yin knew this ridiculously strong human. Confrontation. On one side was Lin Feng in the air. He was alone, but he stood tall. His face was not handsome, and his body seemed ordinary, but it hid terrifying strength. From time to time, flames would emerge from his hands, and the star seal on his forehead would reflect each other's brilliance, creating a clear and imposing aura. It made the hearts of the thousands of women of the Purple Moon clan who were watching the battle beat wildly. Strong. The women of the Purple Moon clan admired the strong the most, especially the strong in human form. On the other side were the experts of the Purple Moon clan, led by the patriarch, Zi Yuan. There were still 8 people left who still had the strength to fight, but they were all injured and in a sorry state. The patriarch, Zi Yuan, who was the strongest, had holes all over his body. His starry armor was severely damaged, 8 against 1. However, the momentum was completely suppressed by Lin Feng. Especially at this moment, dozens of experts of the Purple Moon clan were lying on the ground with serious injuries. Every one of them was a famous sage king, but they were still defeated. So what if they had the right time, place, and people? The difference in strength was too big. Lin Feng was too strong. It's a misunderstanding, patriarch. It's a misunderstanding, Yu Yin said apologetically, her face pale. She then looked at Lin Feng. Yu Yin pursed her lips and nodded. It wasn't a big movement, but Lin Feng was shocked. He vaguely understood something. Swoosh. He looked over and found the bridegroom in red with the word she. The latter's face turned pale, and he kept quiet out of fear. Lin Feng looked to the side and locked his eyes on the bride. The red gown also had the word she on it. She was wearing a red veil, and her delicate body was trembling slightly. No, it felt completely wrong. She was the bride, but she didn't look like Zi Yao at all. Although he couldn't see her face clearly, he judged people by their heart and not by their appearance. The bride in red gave him an extremely unfamiliar feeling. She didn't have any aura, and her trembling body completely expressed her inner world. In addition, he had shouted Zi Yao's name. If she was really Zi Yao, how could she be so indifferent? Lin Feng's face turned pale instantly. Oh no, he seemed to have made a big mistake. Lin Feng pursed his lips. His eyes were cold, and his figure flashed as fast as lightning. Amidst the exclamations, he appeared in front of the bride, as if he had teleported. Although the bridegroom, Zi Xuanyu, was less than 3 meters away, the latter didn't dare to move at all. He only trembled in shock and was scared out of his wits. Pa! Lin Feng raised his right hand, his eyes bright. A strong wind blew out and blew the bride's red veil, causing it to flutter in the wind. Hua! Voila! The surroundings were filled with exclamations. Lin Feng's eyes were like torches as he looked at the young lady who was trembling and bowing her head in fear. Her cheeks were red, and she had a pure and refined temperament. Her hands were soft, and her skin was creamy. She was indeed a rare beauty, and she wasn't inferior to Zi Yao at all. Among all the women in the Purple Moon clan, she was like a crane in a flock of chickens. She was so beautiful that it moved people's hearts. But she wasn't Zi Yao. Accurately speaking, she wasn't his Zi Yao. Lin Feng's face was slightly pale. He clenched his fists and his heartbeat quickened. At this moment, he felt a sense of relief, but also a sense of awkwardness. The surroundings were filled with discussions. Many of the clan members faintly understood what had happened, including the patriarch, Zi Yuan. His face was black and the corners of his mouth twitched. Why was he so unlucky? However, things weren't over yet. Lin Feng, she isn't the Zi Yao you're looking for. Yu Yin's voice fell as her beautiful figure slowly landed on the ground. Lin Feng looked over and met Yu Yin's eyes. His heart suddenly trembled. He could see many things from Yu Yin's eyes. Helplessness, regret, sadness. There were too many things. Bang, bang, bang. His heartbeat quickened. Lin Feng's expression instantly froze as an ominous premonition surfaced. His intuition told him that what Yu was going to say was definitely not good news. Chapter 14:16. Little sister Xiao is already married, Yu said softly. Her voice was hoarse and soft, as if she had no strength. Yu lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Lin Feng. Her eyes were filled with endless regret, and two streams of tears flowed down. She's already married. These words struck his mind like a bolt from the blue. Lin Feng's pupils dilated, and he was completely stunned. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How could this be? It's impossible for Xiao to marry someone else. Impossible. Lin Feng muttered, and his mind seemed to be in a daze. It's true, Lin Feng, just 2 days ago. Yu pursed her cherry lips tightly, and her voice was very soft. She was already sobbing. She closed her eyes, as if she didn't want to recall the past. Yu voice was choked with sobs, and she was in incomparable pain. The surrounding gazes gathered. Although the voice was soft, everyone heard it clearly. So he snatched the wrong bride. Yes, he came to look for that Xiao, but it's a pity that he's 2 days late. That's right, it's too late. I'm afraid they've already consummated their marriage. Bit by bit, inch by inch. When a voice fell into his ears, it was as if his heart was bleeding. Lin Feng's eyes were dark red, and his nails dug deep into his flesh. His breathing seemed to have stopped. Every sentence, every word, was like a knife that pierced deeply into his heart, and it was painful. Why? Why did it turn out like this? Behind him, Zixuanyu also understood the whole story. His handsome face was filled with black lines, and he felt extremely unlucky. He was inexplicably snatched by the wrong bride and lost even more face. A wave of anger rushed to his heart. Zixuanyu took a step forward and said to Lin Feng's back, I say, brother, you ah. Lin Feng looked up to the sky and roared crazily. Clenching his fists tightly, the raging power of flames appeared. At this moment, the cold light in his eyes had reached its peak. The fire of devouring and the fire of rebirth could not be stopped. However, there was no control, no intention. However, they actually fused together in a strange manner. It wasn't a fusion similar to provoking fire, but a true fusion similar to that of a phoenix. At this moment, in Lin Feng's unconscious state, they strangely fused together. It felt like his left hand and right hand. With the growth of the star source energy and the evolution of the constellation Tao, Lin Feng was like a phoenix bathed in blood. His entire aura had changed at this moment. Terrifying, terrifying. An unstoppable, murderous aura spread out endlessly, like a ruthless ancient beast. All the repressed emotions in his heart burst forth. Screw off, Lin Feng roared. His right hand shot out like a fiery dragon. Close at hand, Zixuanyu's face was filled with shock as he saw a terrifying fire dragon mixed with 2 types of flames. It strangely fused together and covered the sky and earth as it rushed over. The terrifying flames were simply unstoppable. Everything in front of him was instantly melted, unable to make any sound. In an instant, boom, he was completely engulfed by the flames. Zixuanyu, like smoke and dust, disappeared in an instant, his soul scattered. He was the one who had hit the muzzle of the gun. Yu Yin's face was filled with shock. That patriarch, Ziyuan, whose forehead was filled with black lines, had cold sweat dripping down his forehead. At this moment, he truly felt the terror of this fiend in front of him. It was unfathomable. Thinking about the previous battle, he felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. It was the other party. He even showed mercy. This attack shocked the entire Purple Moon clan. Everyone and all the voices stopped. Everyone was overwhelmed with shock. The human in front of them suddenly changed. That terrifying, murderous aura and ruthless aura could be felt from afar. Lin Feng, Yu trembled. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Others might be afraid, but she wasn't afraid of Lin Feng because she knew that Lin Feng wouldn't hurt her. In fact, she had already disregarded life and death. The guilt and regret in her heart made her feel so much pain that she wished she was dead. Speak, Yuan, tell me everything. Lin Feng's eyes were cold and bright. It was extremely terrifying. His cold eyes looked around without any emotion. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and said solemnly, I will kill whoever dares to stop you, even if I have to slaughter the entire clan. I won't hesitate. His voice was bone-chilling. Everyone in the Purple Moon clan was horrified. The terrifying, murderous aura shrouded everything. The current Lin Feng had become crazy and persistent. It was a rage for beauty. I understand, Lin Feng. Yuan sighed. She bit her cherry lips and calmed her emotions. Taking a deep breath, Yuan closed her eyes. There was a flash of pain in her eyes. She then opened her beautiful eyes and looked at Lin Feng. It's like this. In front of tens of thousands of clansmen, Yuan told the truth about Ziyao. Her heart was filled with sadness and helplessness, coercion and bribery. The strong preyed on the weak. Even a martial saint expert couldn't escape from this iron law. Strength was everything. In the Douling world, strength determined everything. Only the strong could decide their own fate. The weak could either submit to fate or die. Little sister Ziyao did it willingly. She didn't want her clan to be bullied. Her clansmen went missing again and again, and even her mother couldn't escape. For this, she would rather sacrifice herself. She married one of the 4 giants of the underworld, old monster Inze. Yuan said slowly, her voice low and helpless. Many of the other clansmen of the Purple Moon clan lowered their heads and felt sad, but they didn't know that there were so many twists and turns. But in fact, many of the women of the Purple Moon clan were like this. They were forced to marry, including this Ziyao, who had married Zishuanyu, because they were weak, because they were beautiful. When their weakness couldn't protect their beauty, then this beauty would become a sin. Ziyao was like this. Her beauty attracted the covetous eyes of one of the 4 giants of the underworld, old monster Inze, and he sent people to propose marriage time and time again. Ziyao naturally rejected him, but with old monster Inze's status and connections, he was extremely obsessed. He would definitely do everything he could to get what he wanted. Damn it! Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly, his eyes bloodshot. He hated it. He hated himself for not being able to protect Ziyao well. He hated himself for not being strong enough and not coming to the witch realm earlier. Perhaps if he had come earlier, perhaps he would have been able to make it in time at Yin Imperial City last time and caught Ziyao. Then, this wouldn't have happened. At this moment, he finally understood why Ziyao was at the level of the shaman tribe. Time and time again, he had divined that she was at the level of the shaman tribe. So that's how it was. His heart was bleeding as if it had been cut into pieces. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. The surrounding atmosphere was solemn. No one dared to make a sound, afraid that they would anger this demon. Even though Ziyao's marriage had nothing to do with them, Lin Feng's terror just now had entered their hearts. Even the patriarch, Ziyuan, had to compromise. Even if they had no choice, they could only suppress it in their hearts. I'm sorry, Lin Feng, Yuan muttered softly. If only I could have informed you. If only I had believed you. Yu Yin's eyes were filled with regret as she choked on her words. He hated himself so much, but he had done something wrong. It's none of your business. Lin Feng's eyes were dark red. The light in his eyes was filled with pain and determination. His gaze landed on Yuan, and he understood many things. The last time, was it you who brought Ziyao to Yin Imperial City? Yuan bit her lip and nodded. I hoped that she would have met you. A single sentence was enough to explain everything. Lin Feng felt a heart-wrenching pain in his heart. He had indeed met Ziyao, but she had still left. It wasn't that she didn't love him, but that she didn't want to hurt him. She didn't want him to be involved in this matter. He knew Ziyao's personality very well. She was kind, soft on the outside, but tough on the inside. If sacrificing herself could save others, she would do so. Because of her kindness, because of her compassion. Therefore, she would definitely not watch old monster Inze slaughter her clansmen and watch her mother's whereabouts become unknown. There were many things that he had no choice in. It was his fault. Again and again, he had left and failed to protect her. As her husband, as her other half, this was his responsibility. But he had not fulfilled it. In the kingdom of Maru, he had watched her leave. But now, wait for me, Ziyao. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with cold determination. There were many things that had to be done. Even if it was too late, he would not let old monster Zhe off. No matter what his status was, no matter how strong he was, all kinds of anger burned in his heart. Lin Feng looked coldly at the Purple Moon Tribe tribesman. He didn't want to say anything, and he didn't want to say anything. Although Ziyao's matter was his responsibility, this tribe that was like a plate of loose sand also had an unshirkable responsibility. Such a big tribe, but they couldn't even protect their own tribesmen. Cowardly, timid, he had given them such handsome looks, but he couldn't give them strength and unity. Lin Feng. Yuan looked at Lin Feng. She knew very well what Lin Feng wanted to do. She hesitated for a moment and advised, "Why don't we forget it?" "Forget it?" Lin Feng's mouth was cold. "Do you think it can be forgotten?" Yu Yin's face was pale. Sister didn't want us to be hurt again, so she married. Tears welled up in her beautiful eyes as she looked at Lin Feng. She didn't want you to lose your life on impulse, so she didn't even dare to see you for the last time. I know. Lin Feng's voice was cold, and his eyes flashed. But you don't understand. Yuan and Ziyao don't understand. Men, there are things to do and things not to do. If he could swallow this anger, even his family, and watch his beloved leave, how could he be worthy of being a man? Perhaps going to the underworld this time was indeed a narrow escape, but he would never retreat. Even if he died, he would drag old monster Zhe down with him. Lin Feng, I know you're very strong, but Yuan was extremely anxious and hurriedly advised. This is sister's wish. She doesn't want you to be hurt. If she knew that you came here to find her, she would be very happy. But what's done is done. 2 days ago, sister married old monster Zhe. Even if you go now, it's useless. Lin Feng's expression was cold and bloodshot. The determination and persistence in his eyes naturally wouldn't be shaken by Yu Yin's words. But wait. No. Lin Feng's pupils suddenly dilated. Chapter 14:17. I remember. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he frowned slightly. In his mind, what had happened before he entered the Purple Moon clan appeared. It was still clearly engraved in his mind. Yulong Tea House. At that time, he had been hinted by the Northern Hades to go to Yulong Tea House. Before meeting Ilian, he had heard a lot of gossip in the main hall of Yulong Tea House, and a few of them seemed to be about old monster Zhe. Who? Exhaling softly, Lin Feng pressed his chest and forced himself to remain calm. He slowly closed his eyes. In his state of mind, many of the memories were clear. In his mind, the previous scenes replayed like a movie and quickly froze. Big news. The Lulan Kingdom and the Netherworld are going to have a marriage alliance. Stop joking. How is such a thing possible? Why would I lie to you? I just received news that tomorrow, one of the 4 giants of the Netherworld, old monster Zhe, will be marrying a new wife. She's as beautiful as a fairy. It can't be. That perverted old man isn't dead yet. One sentence after another. At that time, he didn't pay much attention to it. But now it was clear to him. Old monster Zhe was one of the 4 giants of the Netherworld, and the Purple Moon clan was also famous in the Lulan Kingdom. The so-called marriage alliance was referring to old monster Zhe and Ziyao. It was just that Ziyao's name was not mentioned at that time, so he didn't think in that direction. Who knew? The opportunity had already slipped past him. Bang, bang, bang. With his heart beating fast, Lin Feng slowly opened his eyes with a dazzling light. If that was the case, he was not in a desperate situation yet, because according to them, old monster Zhe was marrying a new wife. It was tomorrow. Lin Feng, are you all right? Yuan asked worriedly. Lin Feng's expression kept changing. The surrounding experts of the Purple Moon clan didn't dare to make a sound, afraid of angering this temperamental fiend, including the patriarch, Ziyuan. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He had no other choice but to endure. In the face of great power, he had no choice but to lower his head. Let me ask you, Yuan, are you sure that Zi Yao was married 2 days ago? Lin Feng's gaze was burning, like a sharp arrow that shot straight at Yuan. This? Yuyan's pretty face paled. Seeing Lin Feng like this, she nodded somewhat stupidly. Yes. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Have you ever attended a wedding? Yuan pursed her lips and shook her head. Sister doesn't want anyone to participate. Is that so? Lin Feng murmured. His eyes flickered and appeared to be in a daze. For some reason, he could feel Zi Yao's emotions at that time. The image of her beautiful back appeared in his mind, carrying a hint of decisiveness. Although Zi Yao, who was soft on the outside but strong on the inside, was willing to sacrifice herself for the clan, with her personality, as long as she was his wife, she would definitely not do anything that would let him down. It was completely possible to guess that when that day really came, perhaps it was the day of Zi Yao's death. She would definitely use her body to prove her resolve and protect her chastity. At present, the Purple Moon clan still did not know of Zi Yao's death. Coupled with the news he heard in the Yulong tea house, there was definitely a great change in this matter. Lin Feng's sister Zi Yao, Yuan bit her cherry lips lightly, her voice hesitant. The wedding might not have been held yet. Lin Feng's gaze was serious as he interrupted with a burning voice. According to what I know, old monster Inze is marrying his new wife tomorrow. If he's marrying Zi Yao, then there might still be room for negotiation. Tomorrow? Yuan was stunned and muttered, Impossible! Sister clearly got married 2 days ago. Although old monster Inze is lecherous, this time, he's marrying only Sister Zi Yao alone. Yuan was a little flustered, her expression slightly panicked. Lin Feng's eyes burned slightly. His heart was calm as his gaze instantly fell to the sky. There was the strongest martial artist of the Purple Moon clan there. His position in the clan was definitely not low. Perhaps he might know what had happened. It was the clan leader, Zi Yuan. At this moment, Zi Yuan's expression was serious as he lowered his head in contemplation. After all, he was the clan leader and was used to big scenes, so he had already regained his composure. Lin Feng's figure appeared in front of him, as if he had teleported, carrying a strong aura. Zi Yuan raised his head to look at Lin Feng and said, Old monster Inze is from the Inze clan. It's said that they have a custom. I always thought it was just a rumor. Speak. Lin Feng's eyes were serious. Zi Yuan nodded. It's said that every time an expert of the Inze clan marries a new wife, he will eat her raw flesh, drink her blood, and gnaw on her bones. It means eternal union. As soon as he finished speaking, there was an uproar in the surroundings. Many women's faces turned pale, and Yuan was no exception. What a perverted clan! Lin Feng's brows furrowed. They were even more barbaric than demonic beasts. There were indeed all kinds of 8,000 neutral clans. He had heard the Inze clan before. They liked to live in quagmires and had rough skin and tough flesh. The experts of the clan were all martial gods. They had extremely strong resistance and were good at close combat. However, this was the first time he had heard of such a perverted custom. Although it's just a rumor, it hasn't been circulating for a day or two. It should be 60 to 70% accurate. Zi Yuan said in a deep voice, After that, the experts of the Inze clan will fast and bathe for 3 days. During these 3 days, the new wife must pray for the old wife and meditate for 3 days. So that's how it is. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. His doubts were finally resolved. His tightened heart relaxed a little. Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully. He finally understood. No wonder Zi Yao had already gotten married 2 days ago, but the wedding would only be held tomorrow. She was probably meditating and praying now. In other words, Zi Yao might still be safe. Nothing happened. Bang, bang, bang. Thinking of this, Lin Feng's heart thumped and his eyes flashed with an intense light. There was still a chance. The heavens were protecting Zi Yao. No, it should be said that the heavens were protecting him. There was a hubbub of discussion around them. Seeing that the Fiend Star was happy, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The people of the Purple Moon clan heaved a sigh of relief. It was good news for Lin Feng, but it was also good news for them. But not good. Zi Yuan's expression changed instantly. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. His gaze landed on Zi Yuan, his eyes shining brightly. There's still an hour before a new day, which is tomorrow. Zi Yuan looked at Lin Feng and said anxiously, "It said that the Yinze clan likes to hold their wedding at the beginning of the day. It means a new beginning. Maybe now, bang." It was like thunder. Lin Feng's expression changed drastically. His aura suddenly exploded. "Tell me, the fastest way to the underworld." Lin Feng's eyes were overflowing with coldness. His aura was majestic. He could not suppress it at all. He shot straight at Zi Yuan with killing intent. Zi Yuan's expression changed as he felt the terrifying murderous intent. However, this time, the target of the murderous intent was not him. Zi Yuan waved his hand and said, "Follow me." Then, he sped away like a gust of wind. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he quickly followed. But he came quickly and left even faster. The people of the Purple Moon clan were left behind. They stared blankly at the sky for a long time. Especially Yuyin. Her beautiful eyes flashed with tears. But looking at Lin Feng's back, there was a trace of hope and disbelief. The scene of the Sky Martial Continent that day appeared in her mind. That ordinary human youth was now standing at the peak that she could only look up to but could not reach. Too strong. His strength was unfathomable. With his own strength, he could shake the entire Purple Moon clan. How strong was that? The entire clan was turned upside down this time. It was chaos. More than half of the Saint Kings were seriously injured. But the clan leader, Zi Yuan, dared not say anything. He had to curry favor with him. This was strength. This was the strong. This was reality. "My good sister," Yuyin revealed a gratified smile. "You have good taste." The storm was quickly calmed down. Although this incident was definitely the greatest humiliation in the history of the Purple Moon clan, the casualties were not that serious. After all, Lin Feng was merciful. Other than a few blind people who ran into the muzzle of the spear, the rest of the Saint Kings were only injured but not killed. Most importantly, Lin Feng was not here to seek revenge. He was angry for a woman. For the person he loved, he was willing to give up everything. This kind of loyalty, this kind of infatuation, and this kind of heaven-defying strength made the hearts of the unmarried girls of the Purple Moon clan filled with adoration, as if their hearts were beating wildly. "Yuyin, how did you know him?" Yuling widened her big watery eyes, her ponytail jumping with joy. "Yes, Yuyin, who is he? How can he be so powerful? Tell us about him and Zi Yao." "Yuyin, I want to know their story." The girls surrounded Yuyin in no time. Their eyes were sparkling with curiosity and admiration. They had long forgotten about the picturesque, handsome men of the Purple Moon clan. Since ancient times, heroes loved beauties. But how could beauties not love heroes? In every woman's heart, there was a hero, a Prince Charming. "His name is Lin Feng," Yuyin said softly, her beautiful eyes flashing. "I got to know him." Under the questioning of the girls, Yuyin told them the past. At this time, Lin Feng was in an abyss of suffering. He followed closely behind Zi Yuan, his heart anxious. Lin Feng's killing intent spread out uncontrollably. He felt that time had passed so quickly. He pursed his lips tightly. There was only an hour left. He had to race against time. Thinking that Zi Yao was in danger, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Quick! He had to be quick. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zi Yuan led Lin Feng into the formation. Although the Purple Moon clan had a large population, they would not place a teleportation formation. After all, it was too dangerous. Although the moon formation was large and complicated, Zi Yuan was the clan leader after all. With him leading the way, it would save a lot of effort. Lin Feng did not hesitate and followed closely behind. He was not afraid that Zi Yuan would play any tricks because it would not benefit him at all. His goal was no longer the Purple Moon clan, and the Purple Moon clan did not really want to help him. Instead, they sent him away like he was the plague. In fact, they were both using each other. However, it was beneficial to both sides. Chapter 1418. Moon Pattern Array. It took a lot of effort to enter and even forced a path open. However, it was easy to leave. Under the lead of clan leader Zi Yuan, they walked around in circles like they were in a maze. However, after a while, their eyes lit up. Lin Feng was moved. The Tao of arrays was indeed broad and profound. Only those who had come into contact with arrays would understand the profoundness of it. Hua, his figure flashed, and he quickly left the moon pattern array. Although he was already moving as fast as he could, he still wasted some time. Let's go. Zi Yuan's eyes lit up, and he was the first to leave. I will activate the teleportation array later and send you directly to the nearest oasis to the underworld. After a pause, Zi Yuan seemed to have thought of something. He threw his right hand, and a light flashed. Lin Feng reached out and caught it. It was a blood-red and jade-like crystal token. The blood crystal token has a similar function as the identity token of Yan Imperial City, Zi Yuan explained. Thank you. Lin Feng's eyes were serious, and he did not stand on ceremony. Indeed, he might be able to use this item. It's nothing. Zi Yuan's voice was calm. Don't worry. Although there is less than an hour left, there should be more than enough time. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He knew that although he was a little flustered when he heard the news, he had completely calmed down now, especially when he came out of the moon pattern array. The power of heaven and earth had cleared his mind and restored his calmness. Impulsiveness, anxiety, these negative emotions could not solve the problem. Even if he entered the underworld, so what? The underworld was different from the Purple Moon clan. Even if my doppelganger is extremely strong after metamorphosis, but the underworld is one of the 3 imperial cities of Tianling, along with Yan Imperial City and Lulan Kingdom. Not to mention the high and mighty emperor of the underworld. Just the 4 giants of the underworld are equivalent to the 4 kings of hell of Yan Imperial City. I may not be able to win, even if I can defeat old monster Inze. That is his territory after all. Once I enter, the chances of me coming out are slim. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he pondered. Previously, he had made up his mind to avenge Ziyao. Therefore, he had thrown caution to the wind and killed him quickly. Everything else could wait. But now, since Ziyao was safe and sound, his first goal should be to save Ziyao, then take revenge. His priorities were very different. Although he could force his way into the Purple Moon clan and fight against 10,000 alone, he would not be able to do anything in the Netherworld. Confidence did not mean complacency. He was well aware of his own strength. No matter how powerful his clone was, it would only be on the same level as the 4 Yamakings. If he had the strength comparable to the Witch Emperor Jiang and the Demon Clan commander, he would not have to worry about going anywhere. Even if he had to barge into the underworld alone, he would be able to intimidate the crowd and bring Ziyao back safely. However, the current him did not have such a heaven-defying ability. Then, Lin Feng was surprised. He had already made his decision. We're here. Zi Yuan landed on the ground. In front of them, there was a teleportation array that had already reached a certain age. It looked rather simple and unadorned. Lin Feng landed on the ground with a calm expression. From a moon formation to here, he had spent less than 10 seconds. Now, he had almost an hour of pure time. He still had plenty of time. Since Ziyao was getting married the next day, this hour was real time. It was time that he could make full use of. If he made good use of it and calmly planned his plans, then this hour would be very useful. Pa! Zi Yuan skillfully operated the teleportation array. Instantly, a white light lit up and flashed. Just as he was about to enter the teleportation array's coordinates, a voice came from behind. I have to return to Yan Imperial City first. Zi Yuan was stunned. He turned around and saw that the one who spoke was Lin Feng. His expression was serious as he slowly stepped into the teleportation array. His eyes shone with determination. I understand. Zi Yuan nodded. He understood that, as the clan leader, he naturally had some skills. Soon, he entered the coordinates. In an instant, a white light flashed and Lin Feng disappeared. It seems that things are getting out of hand. Zi Yuan muttered softly and shook his head. Zi Yuan frowned slightly as he pondered in his heart. It was a long while later before he sighed softly. If I had known that Zi Yao had such a husband, I would not have created so much trouble. Now, both sides cannot be reconciled. Feeling extremely helpless, Zi Yuan's face turned bitter. He was not willing to think so much and immediately returned to the tribe. Everything would wait until tomorrow. There was still a mess waiting for him to clean up in the clan. The Netherworld. This was one of the 3 imperial cities in Tianling, on par with Yan Imperial City and Lulan Country. The 3 imperial cities formed a triangle around the ancestral Magus Hall in the center of the Sorcerer territory. It was clearly related to the Sorcerer tribe. In terms of strength, there wasn't much difference between the Netherworld, Yan Imperial City, and Lulan Country. Each of the 3 imperial cities had an emperor. The emperor of Yan Imperial City, the emperor of Lulan Country, and the emperor of the Netherworld were the 3 emperors of Tianling. Their strength was unfathomable. In reality, very few people had seen the 3 sovereigns. After all, they were different from the Witch tribe and the Demon tribe. The Heavenly Spirit tribe was a completely neutral organization with loose authority. The Heavenly Spirit tribe would not participate in the disputes of the Douling world. They disdained to participate and could not participate. In Yin Imperial City, under the Emperor were the 4 kings of hell. Under the 4 kings of hell were the 16 city guards. In the Netherworld, under the Emperor of the Netherworld, the power was controlled by the 4 great leaders of the Netherworld. Unlike Yin Imperial City, the Netherworld didn't have the East, South, West, or North cities. The power was also centralized under the Emperor of the Netherworld. This was very different from the Emperor of the Netherworld who ignored worldly affairs. The 4 great leaders of the Netherworld each had their own territories. They each had their own strengths and responsibilities. Old Monster Inze was in charge of public security. All the experts who entered and left the underworld, as well as the disputes in the underworld, were under his jurisdiction. Among the 4 great leaders, in terms of power and responsibility, he was ranked 3rd in the Netherworld, second only to the Emperor of the Netherworld and Huangquan. Therefore, this wedding could be said to be a sensation in the city. It was brightly lit and very lively. The night in the Netherworld was usually dark and there were few people. However, today was very different. The streets were filled with people. Countless martial artists flooded the streets and walked along with the crowd. They exchanged information and laughed happily. The air was filled with happiness and joy. Soon, it would be the wedding day of Old Monster Inze, one of the 4 great leaders of the Netherworld. How could it not be a sensation? One had to know that Old Monster Inze was ranked 3rd in the Netherworld. In terms of power and ability, he was a first-class existence. It was normal for him to ignore you. However, if you didn't appear at his wedding, it was hard to guarantee that Old Monster Inze wouldn't hold a grudge and cause trouble for you. Therefore, although Old Monster Inze's reputation wasn't good, there were many martial artists who came to attend the wedding. Anyone above the martial saint level was qualified to attend the ceremony. Even many strong people from Yin Imperial City and Lulan Kingdom came to congratulate Old Monster Inze. It hasn't even been 10 years. I didn't expect Old Monster Inze to marry a new wife. So what? It's already good enough that he has the ability to marry her officially. Who knows how many women in the Netherworld have been defiled by Old Monster Inze just because he gave them some shaman coins. Some were even played until they were crippled, seeking their own deaths. Chill. Lower your voice. Do you want to die? How dare you say such things? What's there to be afraid of? Who in the Netherworld doesn't know about Old Monster Inze? Huh. Even he often brags about it. I heard that this wedding isn't simple. Yes, even one of the 4 great Lulan lords of Lulan Kingdom will personally attend. Of course, it's said that there are many unknown secrets behind this marriage. Otherwise, the bride, Xiao, is a member of the Purple Moon clan, and the Purple Moon clan is quite famous in Lulan Kingdom. Why would she marry into the Netherworld? It's just that these big things aren't something we can know. Yes, some things are better left unknown. There were waves of discussion. The crowd was surging towards the wedding. The streets were bustling with noise and excitement, and discussions about old monster Inze and this sensational wedding could be seen everywhere. Among them, an inconspicuous black figure was mixed in the crowd. He seemed calm, but his eyes were burning with a terrifying aura, cold and murderous. In a quiet hall in the netherworld, in the darkness, there was a terrifying aura. It was vast and boundless. In the dead of night, only the flickering of candlelight could be seen. Thousands of paper cranes hung in the hall. A gentle breeze blew, and the crisp sound of bells rang out, making one's heart calm. A faint light was emitted from a huge crystal coffin. It was white and clear, and it emitted a cold aura. In front of the crystal coffin was a woman in a purple dress. Her hands were pressed together, and her eyes were slightly closed. She didn't wear any makeup, but she was as dazzling as the stars in the sky. She was extremely beautiful. It was Ziyao. It had been nearly 3 days since Ziyao had maintained the posture of praying for blessings. However, she didn't move at all. Her soft and beautiful skin glowed, and there was a hint of determination on her beautiful face. She was slightly pale, and she sincerely prayed for blessings. Her heart was calm. "I'm sorry." Ziyao opened her eyes, and a dim light flickered in them. Looking at the huge crystal coffin in front of her, Ziyao's beautiful eyes flickered, and she muttered to herself, "If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have died. Things started because of me, and they will also end because of me. What I owe you, I will return it to you soon. Time is almost up." Slowly standing up, Ziyao's beautiful eyes flickered. A figure appeared in her mind. It was unforgettable, and the memory was clear and natural. Closing her eyes and pursing her lips, Ziyao's chest rose and fell, and drops of tears fell. No matter how strong she was still a woman. Her heart was so soft. "I'm sorry, Lindigo. It's Ziyao who let you down. I broke my promise. If there is a next life, Ziyao is willing to serve you for the rest of my life to make up for the sins of this life." Sobbing softly, Ziyao seemed to have sensed something. She raised her head and looked outside the hall. At this moment, a few auras were slowly approaching. There was a hint of reluctance in her beautiful eyes, but there was a flicker of light, and her heart was resolute. Ziyao took a deep breath and slowly calmed herself down. Wiping away her tears, Ziyao took light steps and slowly walked towards the entrance of the palace. "Lindigo, don't worry. Ziyao, no matter if it's my heart or my body, I will forever belong to you. I am your one and only Ziyao. This love will never change until death." Chapter 1419. Come, please take a seat. What a rare guest. What wind blew Brother Chi here? Ha. This way, please. Men, hurry up and bring the guests to the VIP seats. The wedding was held in the largest Nether King palace in the underworld, and it was bustling with noise and excitement. Among them, the one with the loudest voice and the one who laughed the loudest was undoubtedly a man wearing a groom's headband. His face was repulsive, and his pitch-black skin was full of bumps and hollows. His face was like mud, causing one's heart to palpitate. According to human standards, it would be too extravagant to describe him as ugly. It was completely disgusting. However, none of the warriors present revealed any inappropriate expressions. They all smiled at each other because the most important thing for a man was not his face, but his reputation, his status, and even more so, his strength. He was one of the 4 giants of the underworld, old monster Inze, the 3rd seat of the underworld. Who would dare to offend old monster Inze? Even if his reputation was terrible, even if he looked disgusting to the extreme, so what? As one of the Emperor of the Underworld's favorite generals, old monster Inze had extremely strong strength and prestige. His status even faintly threatened the 2nd seat of the Underworld, Huang Quan, a man with waist-length hair. He could not be considered handsome, but his expression was cold, and he emitted an indescribable temperament. Compared to old monster Inze's rudeness, Huang Quan gave off a very quiet feeling. Ha! Good brother, you're finally here. Old monster Inze opened his hands, and his eyes lit up when he saw Huang Quan. Congratulations. Huang Quan lightly spat out 2 words. Facing old monster Inze's enthusiasm, Huang Quan ignored it. A ray of light flashed in his hand, and a gift box was immediately presented. Before old monster Inze could react, Huang Quan had already turned around and left. It was as if saying another word was unnecessary. Looking at Huang Quan's back, old monster Inze's eyes flashed with a dark green color, and a bright light shone. However, it only lasted for an instant before disappearing. The other guests came in one after another. Old monster Inze regained his smile and began to entertain them again. Huang Quan's figure lightly landed in the sky above the Nether King Palace. He stood there proudly and looked at old monster Inze with a faint light in his eyes. The 2 great experts did not get along well. Shwa! Several figures appeared instantly. It was a handsome man dressed in armor. He was so handsome that he didn't seem to be human. His skin was so delicate that it could be broken by the wind, and his pair of bright and clear eyes not only highlighted his depth, but also showed the terrifying power of his soul. Behind this handsome man, there were men and women who followed behind him. Every single one of them was peerlessly beautiful. The Purple Moon Clan, Lulan Warriors, Z Manlu. Haha, brother Manlu, you're really late. Old monster Inze squinted his eyes and laughed heartily as he went up to greet them. I don't want to either. It just so happens that King Lulan summoned me. Z Manlu shrugged and looked around before he said with a smile, At least I've made it in time. There should be another 10 minutes before brother Inze's wedding. As the saying goes, it's better to come at the right time than to come early. His smile was like a spring breeze, giving people a feeling of closeness. However, Z Manlu's deep eyes seemed to contain many secrets. Right, there's still plenty of time. Old monster Inze grinned. Let's go see how Yao Yao's preparations are going. All right, Z Manlu smiled. In the palace, Z Yao stood upright. Her purple dress and charming expression made her look like a fairy from the heavens. However, she stood there quietly and did not move at all, as if a fairy had been shackled. Her eyes, which were filled with wisdom, seemed to be able to see through everything. Her cherry lips were slightly closed, and her slight makeup made her look even more alluring. Creak! The door opened, and old monster Inze and Z Manlu walked side by side. The 2 of them chatted happily as if they had become in-laws. One was beautiful while the other was ugly, and there was a sense of harmony between them. We looked over and saw Z Yao. Old monster Inze's dark green lizard-like eyes instantly lit up. He swallowed his saliva, and his lustful expression was without a doubt. On the other hand, Z Manlu did not have much of an expression. He still maintained an indifferent smile, as if he was holding a pearl of wisdom. His deep eyes were like an illusion. My little Yao Yao, you're really charming. Old monster Inze's lust was aroused. He swayed his body and approached her, his index finger twitching. Please show some respect. You and I aren't married yet, Z Yao said calmly, looking at old monster Inze without changing her expression. Even if the person standing in front of her was the 3rd strongest person in the underworld, even if old monster Inze could kill her easily, Z Yao did not show the slightest fear, because her heart was very big and firm. What does that matter? Old monster Inze stuck out his disgusting tongue, saliva dripping down. His dark green eyes narrowed, making one's hair stand on end. Little Yao Yao, you'll be mine sooner or later. Come, let your husband kiss you first. Chi! A ray of light lit up, and old monster Inze's expression instantly changed. However, there was no killing intent. Instead, it was the astral light formed by the star origin energy on Z Yao's fingertip that pointed straight at his throat. It was not old monster Inze's throat, but her own. Her expression did not change. It was still so indifferent and calm, like a quiet purple orchid. Her eyes, which were as beautiful as starlight, had a determination that ordinary people did not have. In her heart, there was a firm principle, as well as an existence that she deeply protected. You, old monster Inze, was so angry that his face was somewhat ferocious. I don't believe that a woman like you would dare to commit suicide. As he spoke, he took a step forward. However, in almost an instant, old monster Inze was pulled back by Z-Man-Lu. Z-Man-Lu smiled and advised, Brother Inze, there's no need to be anxious. Yao Yao's personality is a little unyielding. Don't worry, after the wedding, you can do whatever you want. Drip, drip. Blood dripped down. The sparkling blood at the tip of Ziyao's throat had already dripped down. Even so, Ziyao's expression was still so calm. Old monster In Zay's dark green eyes could not help but flash with anger and ferocity. With a paw sound, he directly shook off Z-Man-Lu and turned his head, his eyes ferocious. You'd better not make any mistakes. Otherwise, don't blame me for falling out with you. Old monster In Zay changed his face faster than flipping a book. I know. Z-Man-Lu was still smiling and nodding slightly. Humph! Exhaling from the tip of his nose, old monster In Zay's face seemed to twitch. He looked deeply at Ziyao, looking at the faint astral light, but was also somewhat afraid. He muttered, Damn bitch, you really know how to act. He cursed, but could not do anything to Ziyao. Old monster In Zay could only leave, full of anger. Looking at old monster In Zay's departing figure, the signature smile on Z-Man-Lu's face slowly disappeared. He turned his head to look at Ziyao, a bright light flashing in his eyes. What's done is done, why bother? Z-Man-Lu said indifferently. The astral light in his hand slowly dimmed and disappeared, and the wound at the tip of his throat instantly healed. Ziyao looked at Z-Man-Lu and asked, Where's my mother? Z-Man-Lu's lips curled into a smile. She's fine. I've already come as promised. Shouldn't you also keep your promise and let my mother go? Ziyao's expression was calm. Z-Man-Lu smiled faintly. You are the wife of the future underworld great leader. How could I dare to put your mother under house arrest? Right now, she is eating well, living well, and is being treated as an important guest by old monster Inze. However, Ziyao was still unmoved. She only said indifferently, There's still 10 minutes left. Z-Man-Lu's eyes flashed. What do you mean by that? If I don't see my mother, don't expect me to attend the wedding. Ziyao's voice was flat, but it was clear that her words were spoken. Z-Man-Lu frowned. I'll say it again. I've already let your mother go. It's just that you're getting married, and your mother is naturally happy. Right now, she's celebrating with everyone at the wedding banquet. She's very happy. However, Ziyao's eyes instantly closed. She stood there quietly, as if she did not want to say anything more. Z-Man-Lu's expression immediately turned ugly. Clenching his fists, a cold light flashed in Z-Man-Lu's eyes. With his status in the Lulan Kingdom and his ruling power in the Purple Moon Clan, it could be said that he could summon the wind and summon the rain, but now, he could not even deal with a little girl. He knew Ziyao's character very well. She would definitely do what she said. If he insisted on using this to threaten Ziyao, he was afraid, I know. Z-Man-Lu's gaze turned cold, and he immediately turned and left. Right now, he had no choice but to compromise. There were no empty seats in the King of Hell Palace. Huge private rooms hung high in the sky like lampposts. This was one of the special buildings in the King of Hell Palace. Only those with extremely high status could enter. At this moment, one of the lamppost rooms was brightly lit. 5 figures stood there slowly. The one in the lead had a head of white hair. His hands are behind his back, and his eyes were shining with golden light. I know. Sorry to trouble you. King of Hell North turned off the compass communication device and looked back at the crowd. His gaze finally landed on Lin Feng. Despicable and shameless. Guo Wu flapped her wings angrily, her beautiful face full of frost. I've sinned. Spiritual Master Tianji shook his head and sighed bitterly. I've heard that Z-Man-Lu is ambitious and has made friends with many experts. However, I didn't expect him to do something as immoral as forcing a marriage just to climb up the big tree of old monster Inze. Li Chan frowned, and the 3 of them looked at Lin Feng. The real, main character was Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled faintly. His expression was serious. Now, everything had calmed down. Although the current situation was bad, at least Ziyao was safe and sound. This was the best news for him. As for Ziyao being forced to marry because her mother was captured, he had already expected this. With his relationship with Ziyao, she would never do anything to betray him. She must have been extremely helpless and had no choice but to marry old monster Inze. "Thank you for your help," Lin Feng said with a nod. "It's nothing," King of Hell North said. "The important thing is, what do you plan to do next?" "What do you think, Lord?" Lin Feng asked with sparkling eyes. "If you force it, the gains will not make up for the losses," King of Hell North said seriously. "Even if you get Ziyao, you may not be able to walk out of the underworld. Huang Quan has already reminded me that the Emperor of the Underworld will attend old monster Inze's wedding. He has always been petty and vengeful. He will not allow you to embarrass old monster Inze." "So," Lin Feng nodded, "the only correct way is to use gentleness to counter strength," King of Hell North said slowly. At this moment, Li Chan smiled faintly and said slowly, "Brother Lin, if you don't mind, I have a plan. Perhaps it will work." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Chapter 1420. Time passed quickly. Night shrouded the underworld, and the darkness seemed to be approaching. However, the Nether King Palace was brightly lit and bustling. Countless experts gathered. Saint-level experts were nothing in this place, and Saint King-level experts were everywhere. If the experts here participated in the great war of the shamans and demons, both the shamans and demons would have to avoid them. There were no empty seats. The guests from the 3 imperial cities had all come to congratulate old monster Inze on his wedding. It could be said that he received so many gifts that his hands went soft. Of course, with old monster Inze's status, he naturally wouldn't care about such small gifts. To him, being able to possess the beauty in his heart was his greatest wish. All along, Ziyao had been close to him, but kept a distance. Even if they were going to get married soon, she still kept him at a distance. The more he couldn't have her, the more he wanted her. This was a common problem for humans, and old monster Inze was no exception. Moreover, he had fallen in love with Ziyao at first sight, and the adoration in his heart multiplied. Old monster Inze's eyes revealed a lewd look, and he stuck out his disgusting tongue, drooling, thinking about how he would be able to possess that little beauty soon and make her moan under his body. That feeling of conquest and satisfaction made him excited. His wish was about to be fulfilled. Dang! A clear sound resounded. It was the sound of the Nether King Palace's bell. It meant that a day had passed, and it was over, like a book turning to the last page. In an instant, dang! Another loud sound rang out, louder and clearer than before. It meant that a new chapter had opened at the beginning of the day. At this moment, it had a special meaning. The 3 days of fasting had officially ended. Old monster Inze's green eyes lit up and his heart burned. His gaze landed on the main hall of the Nether King Palace. At this moment, with a creak, the door opened, and the surrounding sounds all quieted down. Even the sound of needle dropping could be heard. All the warriors saw that in the darkness of the main hall, a trace of red slowly appeared, including Lin Feng. The bride had come out. She was wearing a purple dress, and her head was covered with a red veil. Her appearance couldn't be seen. However, merely her graceful bearing that was like a celestial maiden, her graceful figure, and her beauty that was bestowed by the heavens caused the hearts of others to flutter and be extremely envious. This kind of woman could only be found in the heavens. Her appearance lit up the atmosphere of the King of Hell Palace, lighting up the climax of the entire wedding. "Ziyao," Lin Feng murmured. He stared at the beautiful figure without blinking. He did not even need to use his eyes to look. Just her aura was enough for him to feel it deeply. There was absolutely no mistake. She was 100% Ziyao, his beloved wife, the one who had left the deepest impression in his heart. Finally, they met again. "Great, this is really great," Lin Feng murmured with a satisfied smile. To him, There was nothing that made him happier than seeing Zi Yao safe and sound. There was no need to talk about anything else. As long as Zi Yao was healthy and safe, he was satisfied. As for the wedding, it was nothing more than a ceremony. Anyway, Zi Yao would definitely not marry this old monster Inze. Unless he died. Wow, so beautiful. She's really beautiful and refined, as beautiful as a fairy. Of course, I heard that the bride, Zi Yao, is the #1 beauty of the Purple Moon clan. Tis TSK. Old monster Inze is really lucky. A heated discussion broke out around them, and their eyes were filled with envy. Old monster Inze stared at Zi Yao as she slowly walked out, his excitement undisguised. His face was filled with disgust, causing the surrounding cultivators to think that it was a pity that such a beautiful flower was going to be stuck in this cow dung. However, no one dared to say out loud. After all, no one would complain about living a long life. We welcome everyone to the King of Hell Palace for the wedding. Today, a grand wedding will be held here, attracting the attention of the world. The MC said slowly, beaming with joy. Old monster Inze and Zi Yao looked at each other, as if they were a match made in heaven. However, there were many etiquette and many steps to be taken to hold a wedding. It cannot be done overnight. Her head was covered with a red cloth, but it could not block Zi Yao's line of sight. She looked around and saw old monster Inze and not far away. She even saw Zi Manlu behind old monster Inze. I'm sorry, Lindigo, Yao muttered in her heart. Forgive Zi Yao for having to stall for time, so that mother can leave here and save her life. There were tears in her eyes. The scene of the wedding that day appeared in her mind, and Zi Yao could not help but feel a deep warmth and happiness in her heart. To be able to marry the person she loved was the greatest happiness. However, the heavens were playing tricks on her, and she could not be with the person she loved for the rest of her life. Even if they loved each other, there were too many factors and obstacles in the secular world. The first time they separated was because of her sister, but she did not give up that time. Instead, she had a kind of expectation, a kind of desire, and even a goal. She worked hard to cultivate, hoping that one day she could see Lindigo again. However, this time, farewell, Lindigo. Zi Yao is your person in life, and I'm your ghost in death. I will definitely not marry old monster Inze, and I will not let him touch me at all. When the ceremony begins, Zi Yao will sever my own heart meridians to protect my body. In my next life, I'm willing to be your servant and serve you forever, Lindigo. I'm sorry. 2 lines of clear tears fell uncontrollably. At this moment, Zi Yao's heart was already filled with despair. She no longer had any expectations or extravagant hopes, but she was very happy and satisfied, because she knew that Lindigo had come to look for her before, and Lindigo had not forgotten her. As long as this was the case, it was enough. Unfortunately, she was unlucky and could not enjoy it. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. On the lamppost box, although they were far away, Lin Feng could still clearly see the 2 lines of tears under the red veil. He could completely understand Zi Yao's current state of mind. He could feel the determination in her heart and her deep feelings for him. He could not let her down. Even if his body was shattered, he would save her from the demonic cellar and use his life to protect her. Wait a little longer, Zi Yao. Believe me, I will definitely save you. Just wait a little longer. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly, his eyes shining. Don't worry, it's fine. Li Chan patted Lin Feng's shoulder and comforted him gently. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. The ceremony proceeded bit by bit. Although old monster Inze was very anxious, there was nothing he could do. He still had to do what he had to do. He was so close to Zi Yao, but he was looking at her anxiously. His green eyes emitted all kinds of possessive and conquering gazes. Looking at Zi Yao's pitiful appearance, old monster Inze felt a sadistic pleasure in his heart. He was extremely excited. Quick! When the MC met old monster Inze's gaze, he also felt flustered. He even simplified the complicated and omitted some unnecessary ceremonies. Soon, he reached the main topic. Next, the newlyweds will hold a kneeling ceremony to officially bow to the heavens and earth and become husband and wife. The MC's words flowed like a river. He raised his head and said, "But before that, I still have to ask, is there anyone who objects?" "What's there to object about? Let's start." Old Monster Een Zay shouted anxiously. He wanted nothing more than to immediately finish bowing to the heavens and earth, then drag Ziyao into the bridal chamber and do her on the spot. Old Monster Een Zay could not wait any longer. In fact, he had been waiting for this day for too long. The more he could not get it, the more he wanted it. Just imagining that scene made him abnormally excited, not to mention that the real person was right in front of him. Soon, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. The MC's expression changed as he hurriedly responded. Indeed, this was just a routine question. Normally, no one would speak up at this time and deliberately cause trouble. Moreover, this marriage was the third transaction of the underworld, Old Monster Een Zay, who had eaten the heart of a bear and the courage of a leopard. Since no one objects, then, the MC spoke slowly with a clear voice. However, at this moment, a discordant voice sounded in an instant. "I object." The indifferent voice was not loud, but it caused the entire Nether King Palace to fall silent. Not to mention the others, even Ziyao herself felt a wave of inexplicable doubt. She had never heard of this voice before. Following the source of the voice, the aura was also quite unfamiliar. However, that aura was quite strong. His strength was probably not inferior to Old Monster Een Zay. "Who is it?" "Hiss! Hiss!" There was a series of gasps. Following the sound, everyone's gazes gathered. It was a long-haired figure floating in the air above the Nether King Palace. His expression was cold, and he emitted an indescribable temperament. Yellow Spring, the second seat of the underworld. No one had expected that Yellow Spring would speak up at this time and beat Old Monster Een Zay down. Yellow Spring. It was an extremely angry roar. Old Monster Een Zay's eyes were about to split open as he glared at Yellow Spring and roared, "What the F***CK are you doing?" His voice rose, and almost instantly, a huge aura that was as huge as the sky appeared and enveloped the entire Nether King Palace. High up in the air. It was a man wearing a set of black armor and a skull crown on his head. His appearance cannot be seen, but his aura was extremely terrifying. Old Monster Een Zay, whose expression had changed, calmed down in an instant and knelt down on one knee. Yellow Spring also turned around and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Emperor of the Dead," the two great experts said in unison, instantly waking up all the seated underworld experts. They all knelt down and saluted. The Emperor of the Dead was the dragon head of the underworld. Standing at the top of the pyramid, he was an important figure who truly held power. "Rise." The voice was low and magnetic, and everyone felt as if they had heard a great amnesty. "What's going on?" The Emperor of the Dead's voice sounded very unhappy. Two of his favorite subordinates were openly fighting, which undoubtedly made them a laughingstock. If he did not show up, things would become out of control. Emperor of the Dead, Yellow Spring, is deliberately causing trouble. Old Monster Een Zay glared angrily. The Emperor of the Dead looked over with a questioning and cold gaze. However, Yellow Spring's expression did not change. He said indifferently, "No, I'm just following the rules set by the Emperor of the Dead." "Rules?" The Emperor of the Dead's eyes flashed. Chapter 1421. Huang Quan. Old Monster Een Zay's eyes widened as he roared. Even though the Emperor of the Underworld was there, and Old Monster Een Zay could not do anything, he was still so angry that his whole body trembled. He was humiliated on his wedding day. At this moment, many of the celestial spirit world's experts were there, watching him make a fool of himself and waiting for the situation to develop. However, Huang Quan's expression was still indifferent and calm. That feeling was as if everything was in his hands, and he already had a plan in his heart. The Emperor of the Underworld raised his hand, and a Pang Rant's aura immediately suppressed Old Monster Een Zay's anger. No matter what, He would not allow his two capable generals to make a scene in such a situation and become a joke. This would not only humiliate old monster Inze, but also the Emperor of the Underworld's face. Looking at Huang Quan, the Emperor of the Underworld's eyes flashed with anger and said in a low voice, "Go on." Standing out at this time, no matter what the reason was, it was inevitable to anger the Emperor of the Underworld. However, Huang Quan did not seem to care too much. His waist-length hair fluttered in the wind as he looked at old monster Inze. According to the rules of the Underworld, if two experts are interested in the same girl, what will happen? Old monster Inze's chest rose and fell slightly as he glanced at Huang Quan. His eyes flashed with fear. Then he looked at the Emperor of the Underworld. With a deep smile, the Emperor of the Underworld's lips curled up. "I say, Huang Quan, you are the head of the 4 great leaders of the Underworld. You won't be jealous because of a girl, right?" "Emperor of the Underworld, please excuse me." Huang Quan's expression was indifferent as he said slowly, "Miss Xiao and I have never met before, and Inze and I are like brothers. Why would I make such a big fuss over a girl?" With a faint smile, Huang Quan's eyes revealed a smile that wasn't a smile. "If the one interested in Miss Xiao is me, Huang Quan, then what's wrong with letting her go?" His carefree voice caused a lot of discussion around him. Not only were they curious, even the Emperor of the Underworld's eyes revealed a strange look. As for old monster Inze, although he was suppressing his anger, when he heard that it was not Huang Quan who was fighting over Xiao, the fear in his eyes faded. In the Underworld, other than the Emperor of the Underworld and Huang Quan, who was he? Old monster Inze was afraid of. To be able to sit on the 3rd seat of the Underworld, he did not rely on his mouth. "Oh, I wonder which one of my brothers from the Underworld is able to make you intercede for him in person?" The corners of the Underworld Emperor's mouth curled up into a cold smile. Pang Rant's aura enveloped the entire area. A pitch-black star source energy was emitted, bringing with it an intimidating might. His words not only contained a warning, but also a threat. He was the one who set the rules, so he naturally knew what would happen next. According to the rules of the Netherworld, only those at the same level as them had the right to fight for women. If they were of different levels, then someone at the same level would have to step forward. For example, if one wanted to fight over a woman with old monster Inze, it had to be one of the other 3 of the 4 great leaders of the Underworld. Only then would they have the qualifications. The strong were respected. Xiao was also curious. Her head was covered with a red cloth, but it didn't block her vision. Xiao, who had long given up and was prepared to kill herself on the spot, also paused her plans. To her, every minute she could buy was a minute, so that her mother would have more time to escape. Moreover, she also resented old monster Inze in her heart. Now that there was a mysterious powerhouse here to steal the bride, she could sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. She could also buy time. Why not? Her gaze was calm. To Xiao, it didn't matter who came to steal the bride, because her heart was long dead and she no longer had any feelings. Therefore, it didn't matter what the result was, because before they officially become husband and wife, she will die. Perhaps she can't be with Lindigo forever, but at least her heart and body would always be as pure as ice and as pure as jade. This was the only thing she could do. However, just then, a voice arose in the sky. At once, Xiao's face lost all color, and she was shocked. "It's me." Calm and collected, Lin Feng slowly walked out. He was wearing a black robe, and energy surrounded him. His killer's intent was sharp. His sharp gaze glanced at old monster Inze and the Underworld Emperor, ignoring them. It landed on Xiao, who was wearing a purple dress and had a red cloth over her head. Right now, there was no one else. "I'm here, Xiao," Lin Feng said softly. His eyes flashed with gentleness. He could see Xiao's trembling, delicate body, her beautiful face behind the red cloth, and her clear tears. He could also see each other's breathing and the rhythm of their heartbeats. At this moment, there was nothing in the surroundings that could stop this kind of feeling, this kind of connection. So close. "Big Brother Lin." A soft murmur, like a beautiful melody, slowly rang out. The red cloth was lifted and blown away by the wind, revealing Zi Yao's beautiful face. She was indeed worthy of being called the #1 beauty of the Purple Moon clan. The crowd was in an uproar. Countless warriors stared at her in silence. Her beauty didn't belong to the mortal world. It didn't belong to old monster Inze or any other warrior. Right now, in Ziyao's eyes, there was nothing else. There was only this man in black who was emitting murderous intent. Lin Feng. Their eyes met. Their emotions were thick. There was no need to say anything more. There was no need to explain anything. Even if they were separated by millions of miles, their hearts would never stray or be separated. It was as if only the two of them were left in the Nether King Palace. They were a perfect match. From their eyes, one could see how deep their love for each other was. Old monster Inze beside him was wearing a red wedding robe. He looked like a joke, especially his face. He was like a toad. Right now, it was a strange scene. Oh, the Nether Emperor looked at Lin Feng. His eyes flashed with curiosity. It was an unfamiliar face, but his aura was that of a saint king. Most importantly, he was indifferent to his warning and threat. He still dared to stand out. In the entire netherworld, he had never seen such a person. Initial Saint King, old monster Inze thought to himself. He showed a look of disdain, but didn't express it. However, the crowd was already in an uproar. This brat is really tired of living. That's right. A mere Saint King dares to be so presumptuous. He doesn't know his place. You can't say that. Didn't you see the bride Ziyao's eyes? Sigh, a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks. Old monster Inze must have forced them apart. Why do they have to fight force with force? That's right. If they knew this would happen, they would have eloped. Don't you think it's strange? It doesn't make sense for Huang Quan to interfere in such a thankless task. He's not afraid of offending old monster Inze. But why doesn't he avoid the Nether Emperor? There was a heated discussion. At this moment, in a lamppost box, King Yaman North and the others were watching the show. Li, how did you persuade Huang Quan to help? Venerable Tianji was confused. That's right. Big brother. Although Huang Quan and Master are close, there's no reason for him to offend the Nether Emperor to help Lin Feng. What's going on? Guo opened her eyes wide and blinked curiously. Li Chan smiled faintly. It's actually very simple. Driving the wolf to chase the tiger. Looking into the distance with a deep gaze, Li Chan said seriously, I've heard that Huang Quan is very ambitious, and his abilities are even more outstanding. Even though the Emperor of the Underworld deliberately belittled him and distanced himself from him, he still firmly occupies the second position in the Underworld. Venerable Tianji and Guo Wu nodded thoughtfully. Compared to him, old monster Inze lacks intelligence. Although he's strong, he's easy to control. He's the right-hand man that the Nether Emperor has spent a lot of effort to cultivate. Li Chan said slowly, the Nether Emperor wants to use old monster Inze to keep Huang Quan in check. Huang Quan also wants to use old monster Inze to establish his power. Both sides have been secretly fighting for a long time. The key is not me, but Master. Li Chan's eyes were burning. How to persuade Huang Quan is the most important thing. Venerable Tianji suddenly understood and murmured, indeed, this is a double-edged sword. Huang Quan used Lin Feng to fight against old monster Inze. According to the rules of the underworld, he represented his own reputation. If Lin Feng could obtain a complete victory and defeat or kill old monster Inze, Huang Quan would naturally be able to drive the wolf to chase the tiger and earn a lot of money. However, if Lin Feng lost, Huang Quan would also be disgraced and his reputation would plummet. Most importantly, regardless of whether he won or lost, the invisible line between him and the Nether Emperor would become clear. To Huang Quan, this was an extremely important gamble. It was even a gamble for him to be at a disadvantage. I know that you don't think highly of Lin Feng. King Yanluo of the North had his hands behind his back. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his golden eyes were burning. But now that he's on Northern Wind's side, he's a part of Northern City. No matter what happens, We must stand on his side unswervingly. Moreover, after a pause, King Yenluo of the North said leisurely, "His strength is far stronger than what you see." These words were spoken with a resounding clang, landing on the ground with a sound. Daoist Heavenly Secret and Guayun looked at each other, their eyes filled with surprise and confusion. Lin Feng was very strong, but no matter how strong he couldn't be compared to old monster Inze, right? One had to know that old monster Inze was one of the 4 giants of the underworld. His strength wasn't inferior to King Yenluo of the North. Compared to Li Chan, who was known as the strongest city guard in Emperor Yin City, he was even stronger. If Lin Feng could fight old monster Inze, wouldn't his strength surpass Li Chan and be comparable to King Yenluo of the North? Was it possible? Li Chan's eyes shone faintly as he looked at King Yenluo of the North. His gaze was deep and strange. Then, he looked at Lin Feng in the distance, whose strength he couldn't see through. Human? The Nether Emperor spoke. "Greetings, Nether Emperor." Lin Feng bowed respectfully in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. The super-strong person in front of him had a terrifying deterrent force similar to Bull Demon. Without a doubt, he was the Nether Emperor. Although he was only a doppelganger, his soul was that of a human. A strong person like the Nether Emperor could clearly sense it. "You look unfamiliar." The Nether Emperor's voice was cold, and his gaze was as sharp as an arrow. "Yes," Lin Feng answered honestly. The Nether Emperor's eyes flashed, and his gaze landed on Nether. Nether looked indifferent, as if he had known that the Nether Emperor would ask this question. He answered without hesitation, "The human Lin Yun, the younger brother of Lin Feng, the Lord of the Southern Region. He joined me not long ago and became the new Nether General." Nether was calm in the face of the Nether Emperor's provocation. The 2 strong people looked at each other. At this moment, they were using old monster Inze and Lin Feng to fight across space. The secret battle had escalated. Chapter 1422. He looks like him. Yes, he looks exactly like Beifeng Shou from Yin Imperial City. Yes, I saw his battle with Mantong at the Arena of Desperation. He was too powerful. Sounds of discussion rose in the surroundings. As Lin Feng appeared, he was instantly recognized. After all, those who came to attend old monster Inze's wedding were not only underworld experts. There were also experts from Lulan Kingdom and Yin Imperial City. They were all martial saints and above. It was normal for them to recognize Lin Feng. However, no one doubted the identity of Lin Yun, because the person who introduced him as a guarantor was none other than the second rank of the underworld, Huang Quan, the new underworld general. The emperor of the underworld nodded with a faint smile. He was cursing in his heart. If this human's position was low, he could have used his authority to stop this conflict. After all, he could not wash his dirty linen in public. Regardless of whether old monster Inze won or lost, he would lose face once the battle started. However, in the underworld general's position was second only to the 4 great leaders. He was on the same level as the city guard of Yin Imperial City and the warriors of Lulan Kingdom. In the underworld, the strong were respected. As long as an underworld general was above the martial saint realm and was recognized by one of the 4 great leaders, he would have the right to challenge the 4 great leaders. Now, Lin Feng's strength and position were all in line with the rules. Even if he controlled the entire underworld, he could not contradict himself in front of so many people. That would be even more humiliating than old monster Inze losing. Human, is it worth it? For a woman? The Emperor of the Underworld's gaze was sharp as he asked in a low voice. There was a hint of threat in his tone. To protect his reputation, the Emperor of the Underworld gave a final warning. He did not want this battle to happen. Huang Quan did not say anything. He just looked at Lin Feng casually, as if he knew everything. "It's worth it." The voice was clear, but it was as firm as Mount Tai. "For her, I'm willing to give up the whole world." Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he looked at Ziyao. He could not take his eyes off her. How many years had he dreamed of her? How many years had he worried about her? For her, he had entered the 100 Falls, left the kingdom of Maru, and walked step by step into this vast Doling world. From being a country boy who knew nothing, he had experienced the cycle of life and death again and again. Finally, he had come here, grabbed the floating marriage line, and found the she that he loved the most. He would never let go again. Linda go, Zi Yao softly murmured. 2 streams of tears flowed from her eyes. This time, it was not tears of despair, nor tears of loss and longing. Instead, it was tears of deep emotion and deep happiness. Looking at Lin Feng in front of her, Xiao had never thought that he would appear at a time like this, that he would find her at a time like this, and that he would even go against old monster Yin Zhe and the emperor of the underworld for her. Most importantly, she had never imagined that Lin Feng's strength had already reached the level of a saint king. Unimaginable. Back then, she had left Lin Feng partly because of her sister, Yuan, but partly because of the love between her and Lin Feng. After being found by her clan, Xiao was very clear that she could not protect this love that was too far apart. Back then, although Lin Feng's strength was the best in the kingdom of Maru, he was probably not even comparable to a servant in the Purple Moon clan. Her departure was to fulfill his wish, and also for the future. First bitterness, then sweetness. After leaving the kingdom of Maru and returning to her clan, Xiao did not slack off at all. She enjoyed the best cultivation conditions in her clan. With her talent, she quickly improved by leaps and bounds. In Xiao's heart, she had always had a dream, and that was to be with her Lindigo and grow old together. However, because of her identity, because of her birth, this was destined to be an exceptionally bumpy road. Only by becoming a Saint King, a true expert, could she control her own destiny. But who would have thought that old monster Inze would take a fancy to her, and she would be betrayed by Zi Manlu? No matter how strong the love was, it could not win against reality. Suddenly, no. Xiao's beautiful face turned pale as she hurriedly shouted. Although Lin Feng's strength was beyond her expectations, and his appearance in front of everyone made her even more overjoyed, being moved and happy was one thing, and reality was another. Although Lin Feng was a Saint King, he was only at the initial stage. Old monster Inze was a peak Saint King expert, the 3rd seat of the underworld. How awe-inspiring, how powerful. His strength was definitely not just based on words. Lin Feng stood up this time, and according to the rules, he had to duel with old monster Inze. According to the saying of the underworld, the strong are respected, and the strong are qualified to have everything. Linda don't. Xiao was so scared that her little face turned purple. It did not matter if she died, but she did not want to implicate the person she loved the most in her heart, Linda, who was willing to give up everything for her. The mournful cry was like a small blade of grass in the wind and rain, tugging at the hearts of the surrounding experts, causing them to feel a faint pain. At this moment, everyone could see that Lin Feng and Zi Yao only had each other in their eyes. Such a firm love was hard to find in this world. But the situation was very clear. Lin Feng and Zi Yao had obviously been forcefully separated by old monster Inze. Now that old monster Inze had the backing of the Underworld Emperor, he was even more unscrupulous. It was undoubtedly a fantasy for a human at the initial stage of the Saint King realm to snatch Zi Yao back from the hands of old monster Inze, who was ranked 3rd in the Underworld. It was too simple. Don't worry. Lin Feng's voice was very light and gentle. Looking at Zi Yao, for the first time, he felt the control of fate. He felt a force slowly surge out of his body. The improvement of his strength, the continuous daily cultivation, finally had the best results. There was nothing that could make him feel more confident than controlling his own fate. Today, he would no longer be at the mercy of others. Even if it was old monster Inze in front of him, or even the Underworld Emperor. What was there to fear? I will win. Lin Feng spat out these 4 words indifferently. His voice was not heavy, but it made a sound when it landed, causing a burst of exclamations around him. Especially Huang Quan, whose eyes were like pearls of wisdom flashed with a bright light. However, the others did not think so. There was laughter around, but more of it was mocking Lin Feng for overestimating himself. Perhaps this touching love had touched the hearts of many experts, but reality was reality. Lin Feng was just a lowly human, and old monster Inze in front of him. Whether it was strength or status, Lin Feng could not compare to him. To them, they naturally stood on the side of old monster Inze and the Underworld Emperor. Ha ha! With wanton laughter, old monster Inze's disdainful eyes were undisguised. He said disdainfully, "Brat, do you know who I am? Is it important?" Lin Feng's face was still calm as he answered indifferently. This sentence made old monster Inze even more flustered and exasperated. Cold light flashed in his dark green eyes, and the corner of his mouth curled up coldly. What a sharp-tongued brat! But unfortunately, you were blinded by laughable emotions and ruined your great future for a woman. Huang Quan, have you thought it through? Old monster Inze looked at Huang Quan with a sneer. Ignoring old monster Inze, Huang Quan's gaze fell on the Underworld Emperor and said indifferently, "If the Underworld Emperor has no other questions, then there is no need to waste time. We can begin." His eyes sparkling, the Underworld Emperor's gaze fell on Lin Feng, seeing the determination on his face, and then glanced at Huang Quan. But in his heart, he knew that today's battle was unavoidable. Although he was unwilling, after analyzing the difference in strength between Lin Feng and old monster Inze, the Underworld Emperor was relieved. No matter what, the difference in strength between the two was huge. Even if he lost some reputation in exchange for the suppression of Huang Quan's reputation, it was not a loss. Of course, I have no problem. The Underworld Emperor's eyes shone brightly. Since the rules have been set, then we naturally have to follow the rules. However, today's battle involves too many things to avoid unnecessary disputes. I suggest. The Underworld Emperor's gaze swept over old monster Inze and Lin Feng and said in a low voice, "This battle will not end until death." Wow! The surrounding people exclaimed. Everyone was shocked, and even Huang Quan's eyes lit up slightly. He naturally understood the Underworld Emperor's meaning. A battle to the death. What he was betting was not the lives of Lin Feng and old monster Inze, but his and the Underworld Emperor's reputation. The effect of a normal battle was not as deep and soul-stirring as a battle to the death. The Underworld Emperor was playing big. "You two don't dare," the Underworld Emperor provoked. Although his gaze was on Lin Feng and old monster Inze, it was actually directed at Huang Quan. "If you don't dare, then go back. Don't make a fool of yourself here." Old monster Inze's green eyes bulged, and he said arrogantly, "Ant Human, don't think that Saint King is so great. If I want to crush you, it's just a matter of moving my fingers. Let me give you a word of advice. Go back where you came from. This is not a place for you humans." He was full of arrogance, but old monster Inze had the qualifications and strength to be arrogant. However, that's exactly what I want. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Looking at old monster Inze and the Underworld Emperor, he showed no fear. For him, it was the Underworld Emperor who suggested a battle to the death. If he suggested it himself, the Underworld Emperor would probably settle accounts later. He knew very well how strong his clone was. It should be on par with old monster Inze's strength. But compared to the Underworld Emperor, the difference was huge. There were some people he could provoke, but there were some people he could not provoke. Since Lin Yin has no problem, I naturally have no problem, Huang Quan said indifferently. His deep eyes didn't reveal what he was thinking. However, Huang Quan's response was more effective than Lin Feng's. It meant that this battle to the death had officially set the tone. Tens of thousands of eyes were watching and ears were listening. There was no possibility of going back on his word. Xiao's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Looking at Lin Feng, she did not know what to say. The Lin Feng in front of her seemed to be a completely different person. His strength was so strong that she could not see through him. Even though she was already a Saint King, it was still the same. Lin Feng was bottomless. Lindigo, Ziyao whispered in her heart. Looking at Lin Feng's confident eyes, she felt inexplicably calm. But was Lindigo really confident? Although she knew Lin Feng very well, Ziyao's heart was still in turmoil and could not calm down. Would he really win? Chapter 1423. This question existed in the hearts of all the cultivators. Could Lin Feng really win? Early stage, Saint King level human cultivators were never paid attention to. Perhaps in the human world, in the 9 great domains, Saint King realm cultivators could be said to be standing at the top of the pyramid. But in Tianling, in the 3 great imperial cities, there were so many Saint King realm cultivators. What did humans count for? In terms of aptitude and talent, they were only equivalent to the peak saint level of other races. Old Monster Inze was not only a peak Saint King level powerhouse, but he was also the 3rd most powerful person in the underworld. The Inze clan was considered one of the best among the 8,000 neutral races, and Old Monster Inze was the elite of the elites. His strength was not as simple as just being strong. Lin Feng's challenge was undoubtedly an egg hitting a rock in the eyes of the surrounding cultivators. He was overestimating himself. However, the eyes of the human in front of them were shining brightly, and his body, which was not strong, was like an old pine tree, standing upright. Where did he get his confidence from? It feels different from when he fought against Man Tong. Venerable Tianji muttered. He defeated Man Tong last time by luck. Guo Wu pouted and muttered. His strength is at most on par with Man Tong. There is no way he can win against Big Brother Li. Hades North's eyes lit up, and he looked into the distance without turning his head. What do you think, Li Chan? Unfathomable, Li Chan said leisurely. Hades North smiled. Is that so? Very special. Indeed, different from when he fought against Man Tong, Li Chan said slowly. Li Chan spoke slowly, and then he hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. If they were at the same level, he would definitely win. But the disparity in strength between the two of them is too great after all. Old freak Inze's name shook the netherworld 1,000 years ago. Hades North said slowly, Don't you think it's similar? When these words came out, all 3 of them were stunned. Looking at each other, Li Chan knew what Hades North said, and he could not help but frown. Indeed, it was very similar. When Lin Feng fought against Man Tong that day, no one was optimistic about him. But who would have thought that Lin Feng would win in the end, shocking everyone? This human's body seemed to contain endless potential that had yet to be fully unleashed. But even so, was it possible for him to defeat Old Monster Inze? It hadn't been long since the last battle with the Barbarian Vine. In this short period of time, even if Lin Feng had improved, how much could he have improved? One had to know that Old Monster Inze's strength was more than just a little bit higher than Mantang's. Others didn't know, but Li Chan clearly knew that Old Monster Inze's strength was even stronger than her master, King of Hell North. This was because he had the blue-class heaven-ranked treasure personally bestowed by the Emperor of the Underworld, the Demon Underworld Lock. This was the only blue-class heaven-ranked treasure that could enter the Douling Supreme ranking. Although King Yama North also had a blue heaven-grade treasure, it was only a defensive treasure. Its power was far inferior to the Demon Underworld Lock. I think Lin Feng will win, Hades of the North suddenly said. His golden eyes flashed. Li Chan and the other 2 were stunned. Was this for real? Kill this reckless human. Inze, let this human see your true strength. Don't disappoint us. I'll give you half an hour to end the battle. We're still waiting for your wedding. The surroundings were in an uproar, and the atmosphere instantly heated up. After all, this was Old Monster Inze's home ground, and Lin Feng was an outsider. At this moment, most of the surrounding cultivators had come for Old Monster Inze and were cheering for him. The one-sided cheers and the support of many saint-level experts made the arrogance in Old Monster Inze's eyes even stronger. Boom! He shot out an air bomb with one hand, arrogant and unyielding. Old monster Inze roared, and his body instantly became much thicker. His bumpy skin looked even more sinister, like the skin of a crocodile. His ugly face was like a monster's, but his thick arms and legs were like iron pillars, and his muscles were overflowing. It was incomparably terrifying. His aura was completely released. A peak saint-level expert. Everyone, don't worry. 30 seconds. Old monster Inze stretched out 3 fingers and raised them to the sky. Give me 30 seconds, and I'll definitely make this human's blood splatter on the spot. Old monster Inze was full of confidence and roared valiantly. This battle will be my warm-up performance for today's wedding. It's a free gift to everyone. Come, everyone, applaud this ignorant human. Ha ha ha. He laughed valiantly, arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Facing Lin Feng, who was only a low-level Saint King, old monster Inze was full of confidence. For him, such a battle was too easy. Low-level Saint King? He had just learned how to walk, so what was he? Ha! Pa! Pa! Pa-la! Laughter and applause sounded from the surroundings, applauding and cheering for old monster Inze. Many mockery fell into his ears, but Lin Feng turned a blind eye to it. His expression was calm. He had experienced such a scene too many times. It was too naive to want to use this opportunity to attack him. But even better, Lin Feng's gaze turned slightly cold as he thought to himself. The more he underestimated himself, and the more he underestimated his enemy, the greater the loss old monster Inze would suffer. It was useless to say anything now. The only thing he could do was to fight. Lin Feng glanced at Zi Yao and nodded to her, indicating for her to retreat to the side. At this moment, whoosh! A colorful light burst out. The light in the Emperor of the Underworld's hand flashed and surrounded the Nether King Palace. It was a special color that protected the Nether King Palace like a shield. It also enveloped Lin Feng and old monster Inze like trapped beasts fighting. Faint starlight shone, and the Emperor of the Underworld's eyes flashed as he shouted, "Pa!" The shield immediately stabilized. The shocking protection was an independent defensive area created by the Emperor of the Underworld. It was to avoid harming the innocent and destroying the Nether King Palace. After all, both of them were not weak. The surroundings immediately quieted down. However, even if it was not quiet, it did not matter. When a warrior was completely focused, the noise was just a passing cloud. For warriors who had been on the battlefield for a long time, it did not cause any obstruction at all. Old monster Inze was like that. Lin Feng was the same. His eyes were shining, and a cold light had already appeared in his hand. Clang! A ray of blue light dazzled. A long spear that shone with blue light instantly appeared, full of fighting spirit. Whoosh! There was an uproar in the surroundings. Everyone was discussing heatedly, but they had never seen a blue-class heaven-grade weapon like this. Even old monster Inze and the Emperor of the Underworld's eyes changed slightly. Blue-grade treasures were already worthy of being called supreme among heaven-ranked treasures. It was rare to find a treasure that was stronger than it. The spear's name is Doomsday, Lin Feng said calmly. He reached out and touched the Doomsday spear. The feeling went straight to his heart, as if he could feel the Doomsday spear's pulse and its aura. At this moment, the connection between his heart and the spear was very strong, even stronger than the winged dragon spear. It was very special. The first battle of the Doomsday spear was also full of fighting spirit. Sky-splitting axe. Old monster Inze roared, and starlight shone. As the green light shone, a huge axe appeared instantly. Old monster Inze's huge body complemented each other. It could be said that he was majestic and insufferably arrogant, completely overshadowing Lin Feng's small figure. But it was just the figure. The aura, the blue light, completely overshadowed the green light. The difference in grade was a full level. This human, the Emperor of the Underworld's eyes flashed. Very strong. On the side, Zi Mamlu frowned slightly. Linda G's aura is actually not inferior to old monster Inze's. Zi Yao was shocked, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light in disbelief. At this moment, anyone with a discerning eye could see that this early-stage Saint King human martial artist was indeed the real deal. The feeling of battle could not be deceived. However, old monster In Zhe roared wildly, and his huge body was extremely terrifying. The huge sky-splitting axe flashed with a demonic green light and soared into the sky. Facing the opponent whose aura could not suppress him, old monster In Zhe chose to make the first move. Now that it was a life-and-death battle, there was no need to worry too much. Moreover, he had already spoken. How could he go back on his words? Within 30 seconds, he would kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng gripped the handle of the spear, his eyes sparkling. The doppelganger was different from the main body. The doppelganger did not have many complicated moves, nor did it have many changing combat methods. The doppelganger's attack was only on the spear. The spear was strong, and the doppelganger was strong. Simple, a spear determined how strong the doppelganger could be. Of course, there was also the physique that had reached the peak of strength in the Douling world. A terrifying physique that was comparable to which Emperor Jiang and the demon race's commander. This was the doppelganger's true strength, and also the trump card to win. The green light in front of him shone, and old monster In Zhe flew into a rage. On this side, Lin Feng moved. His footsteps were very slow and simple, but there was a hint of mystery in them. The use of the mist cloud steps was more smooth than before. The increase in space energy allowed the use of the mist cloud steps to be completely compatible with his body and strength. Facing old monster In Zhe's attack, Lin Feng unexpectedly did not dodge or evade, and also met head-on. Not bad. Saint King initial stage is actually faster than In Zhe. The Emperor of the Underworld secretly praised. His speed is very fast. This human must have had a fortuitous encounter, and his physique is not bad. But to dare to fight In Zhe in close combat, isn't he a bit too bold? Manla's eyes flashed, and he thought to himself, does he not know where the In Zhe clan's strength lies, or is he too arrogant? The In Zhe clan had rough skin and tough flesh. The clan's powerhouses were all martial gods, and their resistance to attacks was extremely strong, and they were good at close combat. Speed was the In Zhe clan's weakest point. Is this human joking? He is already at a disadvantage in terms of strength, and now he has to fight in close combat. Even if he has an advantage in weapons, it will be useless. Sigh. After all, he is too young and lacks combat experience. There was a lot of discussion. Everyone looked at Lin Feng's rushing figure with a hint of pity. From their point of view, Lin Feng was undoubtedly seeking his own death. They clearly knew how strong old monster In Zhe was. Even the second giant of the underworld, Huang Quan, did not dare to fight old monster In Zhe in close combat, and would be at a disadvantage. But this human in front of them was so bold. No, he was so stupid. However, was that really the case? The answer was revealed in an instant. Chapter 1424. Clang. Chi. A spear and an axe collided head-on for the first time. The green light and blue light intertwined, and the blue light undoubtedly had the advantage. However, the fluctuation of star source energy gave the green light the ability to contend with the blue light. Under this attack, old monster In Zhe and Lin Feng both retreated, but almost instantly, the two of them clashed again. Pung, pung, pung. Golden spears clashed, and power rumbled. The spear and the axe were evenly matched. Although old monster In Zhe had the absolute advantage in terms of size and star source energy, Lin Feng was always able to contend with him, easily blocking him, and even looking for an opportunity to counterattack. The two of them exchanged blows, and it was very lively. The surrounding cultivators were all suffocating. So it's not speed. Strength is this human's pride. The Underworld Emperor's eyes lit up. In his heart, he was shocked. In the entire Underworld, there were not many who could compete with old monster In Zhe in strength. Even Huang Quan could not do it, but a mere early-stage Saint King human had done it. Although he had the advantage in weapons, old Monster Inze also had the advantage in star source energy. On this point, the two of them were even. Shocked. The most shocked person was undoubtedly old Monster Inze. The moment they exchanged blows, he knew who was strong and who was weak. He had never expected a mere human to be so strong. His speed was faster than him, but his strength was on par with his, which shocked him. He had never thought that a mere human could be on par with him in terms of strength. Moreover, the other spectating cultivators might not know, but he knew very well. Lin Feng's physical defense was also extremely strong. Every time their strength collided, Lin Feng's body's stiffness was quite short, even shorter than his. This could not be deceived. This was not directly related to the size of the body. Instead, it was related to the body's toughness, flexibility, strength, and so on. Damn it! Old Monster Inze gritted his teeth, a cold light in his eyes. However, what old Monster Inze and the Underworld Emperor did not know was Lin Feng was just testing the waters. Not to mention speed, even strength was only maintained at a fixed standard and was far from the limit. For an expert of old Monster Inze's level, there was only one word to describe it: difficult. He hadn't used his full strength, but wasn't he the same? From the beginning until now, old Monster Inze's strength had been slowly increasing. This included his heaven-grade treasures, which were slowly showing their brilliance at this moment. As for him, he was still waiting for an opportunity, luring the snake out of its hole. Lin Feng shivered inwardly. He had already planned everything out. It was better to be careful. After all, his strength was not strong enough to take old Monster Inze's life at any time. Moreover, he wasn't in charge of this place right now. He was still restricted by the Yellow Springs and fearful of the Shaman Emperor. No matter what, he had to leave some strength to protect himself so as to avoid encountering unforeseen events and mishaps. Perhaps his strength was indeed on par with old Monster Inze, but compared to him, he had three major advantages. Firstly, he knew his strength, but he didn't know about him. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Long before the battle, the Yellow Springs had already told him all of old Monster Inze's strengths and weaknesses. If he didn't have absolute confidence, why would he confront old Monster Inze head-on? It was just to make him careless. Secondly, he underestimated his enemy too much. Due to inertia, he thought that he was a human and that his strength was only at the beginner level of the Saint King realm. Here, he had already made the most fatal mistake. Underestimating the enemy had always been a taboo on the battlefield. Thirdly, and the most important, that was old Monster Inze's determination was not as strong as his. For Ziyao, he was willing to do anything. Mystery, Sparrow Kill. Lin Feng's gaze was deep as he shouted in a deep voice. An astonishing killing intent spread out and crazily turned into power, instilling it into the Doomsday Spear. Along with the shroud of killing intent, the Doomsday Spear seemed to have awakened in an instant. The inscriptions on the spear completely lit up, and an astonishing clanging sound roared out. Its momentum instantly increased. What? Z-Man Liu and the Underworld Emperor's expressions changed instantly. Lin Feng's strength was beyond their expectations. Old Monster Inze was the first to bear the brunt. Facing Lin Feng's sudden increase in strength, this was the first time he encountered a setback. The heaven-splitting axe slashed down, but this time, the Doomsday Spear that was instilled with rich slaughter Dao shone with a blue light, directly breaking the heaven-splitting axe and going straight for old Monster Inze's heart. Roar! With a furious roar, a craggy shield appeared in an instant. Old Monster Inze's reaction was extremely fast. The third seed of the underworld was not an undeserved reputation. Pump! The slaughter Dao rose, and the Doomsday Spear's blue light pierced. The realm of the spear seemed to be changing, adding a bit of mystery to the Doomsday Spear. Although there was not enough time to grasp the true power of the Doomsday Spear, its basic ability still existed. The Doomsday Spear had a great effect on the Slaughter Dao. The combination of all aspects, driven by the Slaughter Dao and the Mystery Sparrow kill, could maximize the power of the Doomsday Spear. Now its power was beginning to show. Cheat, cheat, cheat. The spear was like a swimming dragon, and Lin Feng's footsteps were unpredictable. However, old monster Inze's defense was extremely strong, and the craggy shield in his hand was a rare defensive treasure. Although it was difficult to block again and again, he was not injured. But defense was bound to fail. No matter how strong the shield was, it had a weak point. As for the spear, all the attacks were concentrated on one point, especially Lin Feng's constantly changing positions. Although the positions were different, the defense of the shield was the same. Dripping water could penetrate stone. Moreover, the Doomsday Spear's sharpness was extremely shocking. Cheat, cheat, it pierced from the center, and golden starlight flickered. Old monster Ze's expression changed. No! With an anxious roar, old monster Ze hurriedly used his hand to block. His thick left arm was directly pierced by the Doomsday Spear, but the armor in front of his chest emitted an orange light. Although it was pierced by the Doomsday Spear's sharpness, it was difficult to penetrate the star armor and injure old monster Ze's body. Even so, the injury to his left arm was unavoidable. Bang! Lin Feng's chi energy rumbled. However, old monster Ze seemed to have been prepared. With a fierce roar, an explosion instantly sounded. Boom! The huge impact caused the two to immediately separate. The surroundings were silent. Everyone's attention was attracted by this evenly matched battle. Such a battle was rare in the world. The confrontation between the two experts had shocked them too much. In particular, Lin Feng's strength had far exceeded their expectations. He was shockingly strong. Boom! He landed heavily, accompanied by a roar toward the sky. All the warriors were shocked. The outcome of the first round of confrontation had already been decided. Lin Feng was unscathed with the spear in his hand, but old monster Ze's left arm was dripping with blood. His expression was ferocious, and he was in an extremely sorry state. He had suffered heavy injuries. It can't be. This human is so strong. What an intense battle. What a terrifying human. The way they looked at Lin Feng had already changed. Strength won respect. Lin Feng was very clear about this. Of course, he never cared about what the people around him said. It was enough for him to know many things. On the other side, Z-Man Lu frowned deeply, somewhat hesitant and uneasy. After all, he had personally planned this. He wanted to get close to old monster Ze. Who would have thought that someone would come out of the blue and ruin his entire plan? Looking at Lin Feng's uncertain face and his confidence, as if victory was in his hands, Z-Man Lu felt an inexplicable fear in his heart. Could it be that this human could really win? This question existed in the hearts of all the warriors. Lin Feng's strength had deeply shocked them, including the Emperor of the Underworld. But compared to the other warriors, the Emperor of the Underworld trusted old monster Ze's strength more. This should be the full strength of this human. The Emperor of the Underworld's eyes brightened. If so, he is dead for sure. Old monster Ze still had a trump card that he had not used. In the Emperor of the Underworld opinion, Ze had only used 60% of his strength. But he did not know Lin Feng's strength. He even used 50% of his strength. It's been 30 seconds, Lin Feng said indifferently. I wonder who said that my blood would splatter on the spot in 30 seconds. His voice was flat, but extremely sarcastic. When it fell into old monster Ze's ears, it was like a sharp arrow piercing into his heart. His eyes flashed with green light. Old monster Ze was so angry that his entire body trembled. The sky-splitting axe in his hand rumbled. Old monster Ze roared at the sky as if he had gone mad. Human, you will regret it. An extremely angry roar resounded through the sky. In an instant, crackling sounds rang out, and old monster Ze's figure suddenly changed. His huge body once again underwent a terrifying change. Like a balloon, his muscles were bulging to the extreme. Old monster Inze's eyes flashed with a deep and fierce light. His roar was dense with star source energy, and his body was almost hysterically changing. Crazy. His aura was constantly rising. His strength was constantly sublimating. Although he was far away from Lin Feng, old monster Inze still firmly protected his body during the transformation process. Sparkling light flashed around him, and there was a rapid defensive power, as if he was afraid that Lin Feng would come to disturb him and launch a sneak attack. He's transformed into his true body. This human is going to be in big trouble. I heard that after transforming, old monster Inze's strength can increase by more than 10 times. I wonder if it's true? He's still standing there. Isn't this human a little too stupid? This is a great opportunity for a sneak attack. When old monster Inze finishes transforming, he won't even know how he died. The voices were endless. However, Lin Feng was like an old monk in meditation, not moving at all. His gaze fell on old monster Inze in the distance. Looking at his shocking transformation, looking at his defense that was worried about his sneak attack, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. How could he not know the transformation of the Inze clan? However, he did it on purpose. There were strong points and weak points. There were strong points and weak points. Transformation did not only make the strong points stronger, it also made the weak points weaker. This was a double-edged sword. The key was how to use it. In fact, from the beginning to the end, his plan was for this. Using close combat to lure old monster Inze, using provocation to provoke him, and even humiliate him. Everything was for now. It's time to end it. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Chapter 1425. Inside the lamppost box. That idiot. He's just standing there like a fool. Guoyun stomped her feet in anger. Something's not right. Taoist Tianji muttered to himself. Hades North stood with his hands behind his back, his golden eyes staring at the battle above the Nether King Palace. His eyes glowed with a faint battle intent. Master, were you also defeated by the Een Swamp race's talent? Li Chan asked slowly, glancing at the horrifying old monster, Een Swamp in the distance. Then, he looked at Hades North. There were many strange things about him. Talent, Een Swamp true body. Hades North's eyes shone. The Een Swamp race evolved from the swamp flying dragon, then slowly gathered in the swamp. Hades North said slowly. Once old monster Een Swamp completes his transformation, wings will grow on his back, and his arms will turn into sharp claws. This is the true terror of the Een Swamp race. Not only does it increase their strength by at least 10 times, but more importantly, it makes up for the Een Swamp race's weakness, speed. Li Chan and the other two listened with bright eyes. What Hades North said couldn't be learned from books. After all, this was the Een Swamp race's secret, their true talent. Without a doubt, old monster Een Swamp's speed after transforming is definitely stronger than Lin Feng's. As for his strength, there's no need to talk about it. Coupled with the blue-class heaven-class treasure, the demon underworld lock, his attack power is immeasurable. That day I was defeated by this move. King Yama of the North didn't hide anything. There was nothing that couldn't be told. For martial artists, defeat was a very common thing. There was always a higher mountain. If one couldn't even face defeat, then one's heart was limited and one's strength wouldn't be that strong. Does such a powerful talent have no weakness? Li Chan frowned. Taoist Tianji and Guoyu nodded, looking curious. The longer it was, the shorter it would be. The heavens were fair. There was no reason to give the Inze clan such a strong power for no reason. Yes, King Yama of the North replied in an indifferent voice. Golden light flashed as he continued. Back then, the reason why the swamp shell flying dragons became fewer and fewer in number was because of the fierce competition for territory, but it was also because the swamp shell flying dragons had a fatal weakness. Its defense is very weak. Bang, bang. Its enormous wings flapped. There was also a familiar spatial energy fluctuation. The bumpy skin on his body had become much smoother, and countless scales had appeared all over it. The black and gray lights sparkled, and it seemed like his defense had increased by a level. The biggest change was undoubtedly old monster Inze's appearance. If he looked a little like a human before, then he was no different from a beast now. It had a sharp mouth, a pair of cold and vicious eyes, and a tricolored face. It looked ferocious and terrifying. In swamped true body. It seems to have been completed. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly, his heart as clear as day. How could he not know that just now was a good opportunity? But there were always disadvantages. If he broke through his defenses, old monster Inze would inevitably abandon his innate skill true body and use Inze's body to fight against him. He was not clear on anything else, but there was one thing he was very clear on, and that was that with his current attack power, defeating old monster Inze was easy, but to kill him, difficult, considerably difficult. Old monster Inze not only possessed a terrifying physical defense, he was not lacking in any sort of defensive star armor or astral treasure. Not to mention killing him, even breaking through his defenses was not an easy task. Perhaps if he used all his strength, old monster Inze would certainly find it hard to resist, but that was not his goal. Either he did not do it, or he would do it thoroughly, leaving no hidden dangers behind. After all, old monster Inze was ranked 3rd in the Netherworld. Rather than deeply offending him and being remembered, it would be better to, let's just kill him, once and for all. Pitiful human, it's over. He actually watched on helplessly as Inze completed his true body transformation. Was he scared silly or too arrogant? He is young, after all, everyone discussed heatedly. However, the scheming emperor of the underworld and Z Manlu's eyes nevertheless flashed with light, deep in thought. Pata, pata, flapping his wings, old monster Inze's eyes emitted a cold light, containing a sharp glint. Practically in an instant, Xiao, old monster Inze sped out. Spatial energy densely covered him, making him seem like an arrow released from a bow, his speed incomparably fast. His arms were much more robust, his muscles overflowing. Most frightening were undoubtedly those enormous claws, as if they could crush everything. The heaven-splitting axe was wielded in one hand, yet it was effortless, its green light glinting sinisterly. Human die, old monster Inze wildly shouted. Sweeping away his previous dejection, the old monster Inze behind his true body transformation was high-spirited, arrogant beyond compare. The power of the giant axe that overflowed the heavens seemed to break the vault of heaven. A frightening, baleful aura penetrated the barrier, enveloping the entire Netherworld King Palace, its killing intent completely exposed. Just from its imposing manner, old monster Inze was already completely different. His enormous body had perfect lines, combining power and speed incomparably perfectly. Lindigo. Xiao covered her small mouth, her eyes flashing with panic. With her early stage Saint King strength, she could naturally see how terrifying old monster Inze's strength was. As for Lin Feng, he was like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. His expression froze. Mystery, sparrow kill, Lin Feng shouted. Facing old monster Inze's aggressive offensive, he maintained his original speed and slowly retreated. The doomsday spear in his hand hummed, as if it was a little sluggish. Its blue light was actually suppressed by the green light of the heaven-splitting axe, but its battle intent and aura were too inferior now. Amidst the uproar of the crowd, Lin Feng quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Clang, clang, clang. Lin Feng was completely suppressed. As he fought and retreated, he was absolutely at a disadvantage in terms of strength and speed. Stupid, you deserved it for not attacking when you had such a good opportunity just now? Guayun snorted. Taoist heavenly secret pondered. Although his strength has increased a lot compared to when he fought with Mantung, it's a bit too much to challenge old monster Inze in such a short time. Li Chan shook his head gently, and looked at Lin Feng in the distance. Although he said that there was a hint of fear and envy in his eyes. Even though Lin Feng was restrained by old monster Yin Zhe, his strength was still quite strong. One had to know that old monster Yin Zhe was ranked 3rd in the underworld. He was even stronger than Hades North. It was already quite good that Lin Feng could fight with him for so long. Is that so? Hades North said softly. His golden eyes were extremely bright, as if he could see through everything. It had the same brilliance as Huang Quan's eyes not far away. Fight! Lin Feng seemed to be using all his strength to grit his teeth. However, the difference in strength between them was obvious at this moment. Previously, Lin Feng could still rely on his speed advantage, balance of strength, and physical strength to fight evenly with old monster Yin Zhe. He even had the upper hand. But now, he was completely defeated. After transforming, old monster Yin Zhe's strength was terrifying. His strengths were even stronger, and his weaknesses were also increased. Pung! A huge axe directly broke through the defense of the Doomsday Spear. Lin Feng's chest felt as if it had been struck by lightning. He instantly spat out blood and flew backward in a miserable state. His aura was weak, and his previous high spirits were like a river flowing east, no longer existing. After being injured consecutively, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in midair. Ha! Old monster Yin Zhe laughed maniacally and chased after him without restraint. Killing intent was completely revealed in his eyes. Die, human. No. Ziyao's beautiful face was filled with tears as her body trembled violently. Her heart was completely twisted together, and she was in incomparable pain. She felt as if she was about to suffocate. Hades North and the others frowned, not even daring to breathe loudly. The Emperor of the Underworld also revealed a faint smile, but he was not surprised by this result. Only Zimamla's eyes still had a faint glimmer of light. As for Huang Quan, his expression did not change at all from the beginning to the end. It was as if this battle had nothing to do with him at all. Kill him, Yin Zhe. Go chop him into pieces. A mere human dares to come to the underworld and be so presumptuous. You are simply courting death. Thunder rumbled. Old monster Yin Zhe's arrogance was even more obvious, and he was unrestrained. As far as he was concerned, Lin Feng didn't have the ability to fight back at all. He could only watch how Lin Feng killed to his heart's content, and let Ziyao see who was truly the strongest amongst the strong. The green light of the sky splitting axe flashed dazzlingly, as crazy and wanton as its owner. However, the results were often unexpected. Just as old monster Yin Zhe gathered all his strength into this axe, and all the astral origin power and constellation Tao fused into it, as if it was breaking through the sky, no one expected that Lin Feng, who was vomiting blood and seriously injured, would suddenly disappear in an instant. In an instant, he appeared behind old monster Yin Zhe. Fast. Extremely fast. What? The Emperor of the Underworld widened his eyes in shock. Others might not be able to see it clearly, but he saw it clearly. Lin Feng, who was seriously injured before, turned around like a swimming dragon the moment old monster Yin Zhe swung his axe. He went straight for old monster Yin Zhe's back without any injury. His speed was extremely terrifying. Extreme speed, Hades North murmured, his eyes full of disbelief. Even Li Chan and the other two behind him were stunned for a moment, as if they had been petrified. Ziyao's watery eyes were wide open, and she was completely shocked. Huang Quan, who would not change his expression even if the sky fell, also showed a look of surprise for the first time. Extreme speed. You are the one who will die. Lin Feng's voice was faint. The Doomsday Spear shook slightly, and like the appearance of a white cloud, it was ethereal and light. The fragmented white mist dispersed and gradually gathered to form a cloud. The Doomsday Spear's clanging sound resonated clearly. The fusion of the arcane sparrow slash was like a ladder to heaven, gathering the star source energy, the constellation Tao, the power, the force, the chi, transformed into a clean and neat spear, transforming into a cloud that appeared faintly. He had been waiting for this spear for a long time. Chi, the doomsday spear pierced out like a dragon. Facing old monster Inze, whose defense was almost zero, it showed no mercy. Power 100%. The clouds and fog dispersed, and dawn broke. Clouds rise. Lin Feng's eyes were deep as he shouted indifferently. Chapter 1426. No. Old monster Inze's face was completely pale. He screamed hysterically, but he couldn't make a sound. His voice seemed to be stuck in his throat. He had used all his strength on this axe. He couldn't hold back at all. Even if he wanted to change his move, it was impossible. Lin Feng's counterattack was completely out of his expectation. The speed of Lin Feng's counterattack was far beyond his expectation. This horrifying spear attack made his hair stand on end, and a chill ran down his spine. He only had a layer of star armor to defend himself. Could he block it? Chi. The doomsday spear pierced through the star armor as easily as tofu. The answer was simple and direct. Old monster Inze had lost because he had underestimated his opponent. Bang! It pierced through his heart. The stellar source energy exploded violently. Old monster Inze's huge body exploded like a balloon. Blood splattered everywhere, and his flesh was mangled. His shrill voice shocked the entire Netherworld King Palace. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The Emperor of the Netherworld's eyes flashed coldly. His killing intent surged as he sped forward. But pa! Nether's figure landed in front of the Emperor of the Netherworld. He blocked the Emperor of the Netherworld's path. What is the Emperor of the Netherworld trying to do? Nether's eyes flashed as he spoke calmly. Get out of my way, the Emperor of the Netherworld said in a low voice. Black stellar source energy spread out, bringing with it a horrifying feeling and a strong sense of threat. However, Nether didn't move. He just stood there quietly, as if he wasn't afraid of the Emperor of the Netherworld at all. Although he wasn't as strong as the Emperor of the Netherworld, he had calculated everything clearly in front of everyone. The Emperor of the Netherworld wouldn't dare to make a move. In this short period of time, bang, 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 a series of loud noises drowned out old monster Inze's last words. The energy exploded wildly. Lin Feng wouldn't be merciful anymore. After severely injuring old monster Inze, he slaughtered him in a few seconds. His methods were clean and neat, like a butcher dismembering an ox. The terrifying energy shrouded and slaughtered old monster Inze completely. Not a single bit was left. His soul was scattered. Pa! Lin Feng's eyes shone as he absorbed all the light in front of him. What a bountiful harvest! They were both old monster Inze's heaven-ranked treasures. Although there were only two of them, it was enough because one of them was a rather rare blue treasure, which was a heaven-ranked treasure on the same level as his doomsday spear. Randong's aura and senses were unprecedentedly strong. Blue-class heaven-ranked treasure, Dark Demon Lock. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. This is what Huang Quan said, old monster Inze's greatest reliance. The only blue-class heaven-ranked treasure that can enter the Do Ling sovereign ranking. Unfortunately, he underestimated his opponent. His heart was sparkling. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he felt the stench of blood around him. Then he slowly calmed down. In fact, this was an unfair battle. Old monster Inze knew everything about himself, including his strengths, weaknesses, and even his innate talent, Inze's true body, as well as his most powerful treasure, Demon Underworld Lock. With his own spear technique, which had yet to break through the barrier of the Starry Sky powerhouses, it was absolutely impossible for him to kill old monster Inze in his original form. As for his Inze true body, his speed, strength, and everything seemed perfect, and his improvement was huge. However, his defense was less than 1/5 of his original strength. This was a rather fatal link. Originally, when old monster Inze used his innate talent and the Demon Underworld Lock, it would not be so easy for him to break through his defense. However, He was too arrogant and thought that he would not be able to withstand a single blow, so he did not even use his most powerful treasure. Underestimating the enemy was a taboo on the battlefield, but old monster Inze had made such a mistake. You brought this upon yourself. Lin Feng's eyes were cold, without the slightest bit of sympathy. In the end, he had underestimated him too much. Or it should be said that he had underestimated humans too much. Heavens! How could this be? Am I seeing things? Old monster Inze died just like that? He actually died at the hands of a human. This is ridiculous. The surrounding powerhouses were all shocked. After they came to their senses, it instantly caused an uproar. They were shocked and in disbelief. Saint-level powerhouses and sage, king-level powerhouses looked at the scene in front of them and felt that their minds had been turned upside down. Humans had always been known for being weak. They had a large number of people, but were just a bunch of ants. When did they become so strong? Unimaginable. The result was completely unexpected. Huang Quan, the Emperor of the Dead's eyes burned with anger. Old monster Inze was the right-hand man he had spent all his effort to cultivate to keep Huang Quan in check. Who would have thought that he would be so cleanly finished off by Huang Quan's subordinate today? What he lost was not only his face, but also his secret battle with Huang Quan. He had lost a lot. Extremely hateful. He's already dead. Emperor of the Dead, you don't have to care too much. Huang Quan's lips curled up slightly, his expression calm. Good, very good. The Emperor of the Dead gritted his teeth, his killing intent surging. Their eyes met. The conflict between the two most powerful powerhouses of the underworld intensified. The Emperor of the Dead looked at Lin Feng not far away, revealing a strong killing intent that he did not hide. However, Huang Quan was still calm and did not care at all. In fact, to him, Lin Feng's life and death had nothing to do with him. They were just using each other. That was all. We won. Guogu was stunned. Yes. Spiritual Master, Tianji nodded. He can actually reach the limit of speed. Li Chan's eyes were full of shock. He's brave and smart. This kid is unfathomable. He's indeed extraordinary to be able to reach the 9,000th step of the heavenly path. King Yamen North's white hair fluttered in the wind. He was full of praise and satisfaction. Thinking of the Emperor of the Dead's evaluation and the battle just now, King Yamen North showed a gratified smile. He had a successor. Zi Yao covered her mouth in disbelief. Her eyes were full of tears. However, it was completely different from before. She wasn't sad, but happy and joyful. She felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. She felt as if she had broken through all the obstacles in her life. There was no longer any distance between her and Lin Feng. Tears of joy. Lin Feng turned his head and looked at Zi Yao with a smile. Their eyes met. There was only each other left in their eyes. The feeling of happiness was so rich and sweet. No matter how many people were watching, it did not matter. In Lin Feng's eyes, there was only this woman in a purple dress and the beautiful face that he yearned for day and night. There was nothing that could stop him and Zi Yao anymore. The current him could use his strength to control his own fate. He was no longer restrained by others. This was strength. If he did not have the strength to defeat old monster Inze today, then everything would be empty words. Everything would turn into bubbles. Day and night of bitter cultivation, tempering himself between life and death time and time again, he had tempered himself into the person he was today. He would not repeat the mistakes of 10 years ago. Now, he had enough strength to protect the people around him. He would not let Zi Yao leave again. His figure flashed. Lin Feng came in front of Zi Yao. Their eyes met. Lindigo. Zi Yao opened her mouth as if she wanted to explain something, but she was instantly interrupted by a hug. The thick arms and chest gave her warmth and happiness. That familiar smell, that breath that she would never forget, entered her heart. Zi Yao closed her eyes and hugged him tightly. She was incomparably happy. She would never let go again. There was no need to say anything more, because she knew that Lindigo would definitely understand. A simple hug expressed her longing and the pain of love. The surrounding experts watched this pair of lovers finally get married and felt a sense of warmth in their hearts. However, they only thought in their hearts and did not say anything more. After all, this was the Nether King Palace, the underworld. Most importantly, the anger of the Emperor of the Underworld was visible to everyone. Old monster Inze's death was like cutting off an arm. Surging killing intent surged out. All of his anger was directed at Lin Feng. To the Emperor of the Underworld, Lin Feng was undoubtedly the instigator. He was far more hateful than the Nether King. Moreover, if the Nether King could move, he would have done so long ago. But this Lin Yun, who came out of nowhere, was different. Did he need a reason to kill? The human Lin Yun. The Emperor of the Underworld's gaze deepened. His heart was already burning. Lin Feng naturally felt the Emperor of the Underworld's killing intent. But so what? He had already expected this result. But now, no matter how angry the Emperor of the Underworld was and how much he hated him, he would definitely not do it in public. After all, he was the one who said that he would fight to the death. He could not slap himself now. But what would happen next was another matter. It would not be too late to think about what would happen next. Lin Feng was immersed. At this moment, he did not want to think about what would happen in the future. He only wanted this moment to stop forever. He felt as if he had returned to the time in the kingdom of Meru. Everything had gone in circles and returned to the starting point. Feeling the warmth of the beauty in his arms and the fragrance that assailed his nostrils, his heart was incomparably warm. For Ziyao, he was willing to pay any price, let alone infuriate the Emperor of the Underworld. Even if he turned the entire underworld upside down, he would not frown. The King of Hell North and Li Chan had already analyzed the current situation. It could be said that this was the best outcome. At the very least, the Nether King would temporarily stand on his side. Linda go, Ziyao said softly. Her breath was like an orchid's. She had always been intelligent. Now that she had calmed down, she could sense the danger approaching. The storm was not over. Don't worry. I'm here. Lin Feng gently stroked her elegant hair. A faint fragrance wafted to his nose. It was as if he had forgotten everything. Back then, when he married Ziyao in the kingdom of Meru, he swore to take care of her for the rest of his life. It was the same now. That was his promise. Let's go. We can't stay here for long. Let's go back first, Lin Feng said softly in Ziyao's ear. Okay, Ziyao replied obediently. In an instant, the two of them left. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, they ignored the Emperor of the Underworld and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Seeing Lin Feng leave, the King of Hell North also turned around and left with Li Chan and the other two, who were still somewhat shocked. The people of the Underworld were left behind. They were greatly shocked and did not know what to do at this moment. Big news. Old monster Inze had died. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.